All right, we have a couple minutes before we're going to start our regular business. So the best part of our business is to thank you folks for coming tonight. And we really want to thank you for all the work that you've done for the Conservation Commission over the past year on our parks. You guys have done a fantastic job. We have lots of open space, and it doesn't all get taken care of well. And you have all done a great job of doing that with us and for us, and we really, truly appreciate it. The Driftway gets used by lots of folks that live in Scituate, and they really like to get out and see the marsh, and so along with that comes litter and branches fall and things get left behind, and so to have folks go out there and keep it up is a real plus, and we certainly appreciate it. And so we have a little bit of things that we'd like to give to you as part of that. And I also want to thank you, by the way, for inviting us to your at Thanksgiving, which was really a lot of fun. And in the breakfast, so we really appreciate it.
I just wanted to mention too, Chairman, that these students here were paid employees this summer, so they were paid for their work, but in years past they had done it on a volunteer basis, painting the fence at the lighthouse and other jobs throughout the community, so we're very, very proud of them in our classroom as well.
That's awesome. So let's see.
Oh, jeez.
You can...
Don't say oh, jeez, Matt.
Maybe when you can help me. Is Alexandria?
Alex is here.
Yep, right here.
Right here. So this is from the Town of Scituate Conservation Commission. We appreciate your hard work. The second year cleaning the conservation parks for all residents of the Town of Scituate to enjoy. And Carol was good enough. She made you a little piece to clip on your clothing, and do you know where Maria's is? In the harbor. There's a little something there for you, Alexander. Thank you. Paul? And Paul, the Town of Scituate thanks you for all your hard work. And the second year in a row willing to do all that. And it's a little badge and a sheet of paper and a little thank you. Thank you very much. Sarah? Thank you, Sarah, for all your hard work. And you work in the park, and this is a little badge you can wear when you're working out there if you like.
Yeah.
And a little something. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matthew? Wait a minute. Are there two Matthews? Thank you for your hard work. You can put this right on your pocket. You know where Maria's is? Does anybody here like tomatoes?
I love tomatoes.
Ask for extra tomatoes.
And lettuce. And lettuce.
Christopher? Christopher, the Town of Scituate thanks you for all your work on the trails, and we really appreciate that effort.
What needs to be done is the town hall.
You don't have to do anything except enjoy that. All right, okay?
Good job.
Again, we have lots of trails out and around town, and we hope that everybody enjoys them. I think, Matthew, your brother's working on a couple of projects, which is helpful.
Oh, Nick?
Yep.
It's cuckoo.
Well, I know, I got a brother.
Oh, you got time, no? Baby?
Oh, you were best friends.
Yeah. Well, he's done some great work and through the Scouts, and he cleaned up a marsh. So, well,
Kisses.
yeah. Well, thank you so much. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I just wanted to mention, so this summer, July 11th to August 18th, you'll be out there again, so congratulations, guys, you're awesome, and
What was the dates on that?
July 11th to August 18th is the summer program, so they'll be out working during that time frame.
If you happen to think of it, if you're getting close to that, if you don't mind, to remind us, and
Sure.
we'll make sure we make a point of stopping in.
Bye.
Yeah.
I like visitors. Pretty social, as you can tell.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anything that we should do to improve our program, do you think? No?
What? Anything they can do to improve their program? Oh, boy. Any suggestions?
I don't care.
Matt?
Yeah, he's,
Well, I think that you should talk to you about maybe working on the beach. I think that would,
Let's do it.
yeah, there you go. So you think we're doing okay?
What's up, Glory?
Yeah. Well, anything that you think that we could do to make the parks a little bit better, please let us.
Well, on TV, we do what we do.
A TV,
oh, if you put them on.
we're on
Well,
TV.
You're on TV now.
He's talking down there. Yeah, you go home and watch yourself in a couple of days. You'll be on TV.
You'll be on Channel 10?
9.
9.
Oh, jeez.
But not until Friday. Okay, it usually takes a day or two to get on. Okay?
Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, thanks so much.
coming.
Appreciate your help. Thank you. You can stay for the rest of the meeting, but it's pretty boring.
That's like punishment. It's not a reward.
I see myself turn around. It was like, come on.
You guys hang tight, I just want to get a picture of my girl
Oh, I'm sorry.
standing in front. Alex, what? Okay, I need to take a picture. I'm going to do my happy dance, so I can at least get a picture.
Let's go. Good job. Now you get a piece.
Right here. How about right here, so I can get all the names and everybody in my
Thank you very much for doing that. Thank you so much for helping.
See that? Nice and professional. Okay, I'm not doing my happy dance. Now I'll do woo! Don't ever make me get 3 bags of chips.
3 bags.
Frank's good at this. He needs to run for governor. He needs to run for governor.
Thank you.
I'm Frank Snow.
Incredibly blessed. Thank you for recognizing me. I'm not gonna cry.
Thank
Can't
you.
do my happy dance and I'm not gonna
Thank
cry.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Frank Snow for governor. That was good.
I wish we were that popular all the way around. We are so lucky to do that, though. I mean,
Oh, it is.
the amount of work that gets done there, I mean, to keep that place, we wish everybody would appreciate all the work that they do and keep it clean.
I know. Sad, but you know.
But there goes our audience.
I know. Well, let's get the rest of the meeting done. Let's go.
This is dangerous. Good thing we don't have everyone, because the short agendas are where we get off on rabbit trails,
I know.
talking about
Tonight, we've only
theory.
got Penny to worry about.
I already saw Frank this afternoon and I already bugged him for what I needed.
Sean, do you have everything you need?
No, Sean's here for the...
DPW.
Yeah.
Good night.
You ready? Good night. Thank you.
Night.
On January 27, 2016, during the 6:15 PM meeting at the Town Hall, the Scituate Conservation Commission will act on the request of the Town of Scituate DPW for a determination of applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate Wetlands bylaws to replace water mains on various streets in Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Can we give another permit to somebody that's in violation?
Is the DPW in violation on the other one?
This one is different.
Oh, okay.
Country way.
Well, it says various streets.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Sean McCarthy with the Department of Public Works here in Scituate. And we're entering our third year of unlined cast iron water line replacements. Right now, it's starting to stretch us out into various smaller sections throughout town. Some in the mined area, some selected areas here and there. That's the focus, the unlined cast iron. So there will be several streets. It's another 7.3 miles we're looking to install next year. It is part of a replacement of an existing utility that provides services for municipality or town, so it falls under the RDA submission requirements. As in the other previous 2 years, we'll be requiring catch basin, silt sacks to be installed along the project routes, and in previous year's work, what we'd like to do is review the plans as they're developed. The resource areas have been identified using GIS, and most of the areas, or I should say all of the areas, will be within the roadway. So it's an existing developed area. There'll be no increase of pavement, and the restoration will return to existing, whether it's a gravel roadway or a paved road surface. So when the plans are finalized, they will show erosion controls along the path near the resource areas. However, we can drive, walk the routes of construction, and if additional erosion control is needed, it can be placed at that time, or even at the 75% plan set before they go out to bid, if we take that site walk on these various streets, determine if erosion control isn't shown and it needs to be shown, it gets put on at that time.
I think that would be better than waiting for the pre-construction. You know, I think if we took the ride together.
Sure.
And I think we did that one other time. Yeah.
It would certainly would help me in the bidding phase. Then I'm not adding extras to someone's contract that weren't foreseen. Yes, both of these projects, which we're calling Phase 3A and 3B, meaning Year 3, we hope to bid in late February, early March, and then it takes about a month to secure all the bonds and certificates of insurance, and hope to get them mobilizing in April. Get them starting as soon as the weather breaks.
Okay, my only concern is, we know what happened on Springwall with the staging area. We gotta be more careful with these staging areas.
Lawson, down at
Lawson, I'm sorry.
Yeah, not to bring it up now, but I did highlight a sketch. They didn't use it as a staging area.
Or whatever they did, they made a mess.
What happened is the water line is, here's Lawson Road,
Yeah,
here's
Bossy?
Bossy Lane, correct.
Yeah.
The old water line is here in blue,
okay, yeah,
well off the roadway.
yeah.
And in order to replace this line, the way this connection is made, the gates that are existing on the old system didn't work. So insertion valves needed to be installed at this T location, which brought them in, that's why they were in that area there. It was to install those two valves, and that was it.
Whatever somebody should have come and told us they were gonna make a mess.
Before they entered that
Yes,
woodland.
before they touched it, okay? And that, but we do have to be careful with the staging areas, and the second the erosion control starts to fall apart, get it back up. I mean, I know it's, a lot of it has to do with who you hire, but they really, really have to understand.
There's a lot of coordination going
Yeah.
on, there is.
And then sometimes, because that, we really don't want to see that happen again, you know, without coming in and telling us, because that
Is he
was
coming in
messy.
tonight, Sean?
I believe he is,
Yeah, he's
yeah.
scheduled for like 8:15, I think, tonight. The contractor.
How much gets placed on the contractor? I mean, when you have a pre-construction, do you do that with,
Yeah, in this case, we were looking on Branch Street. We didn't know there was going to be work done on Lawson. And so sometimes the notice on a pre-construction is kind of quick. I was tied up, so I wasn't at the pre-construction, so we found this after the fact, so.
Oh, they came down Bossy Lane and out on there.
Onto Lawson from, right.
From Bossy, yeah, not down
Right,
Lawson.
so we didn't know it was going to be there, and so we would have said, we would have identified as an area to stay away from.
Well, the telephone call is real easy. If they have a question, call you.
but I mean, I can appreciate, you know, it wasn't just a random, let's go over there and dump some fill.
Right.
That was why I tried to.
And it seemed to me like there would be more to it than just somebody dumping some dirt off the side of the
We
road.
didn't know that till this week. We heard about these, you know, the structures that were in place.
Yeah.
Was just,
I mean, Lawson, it's amazing what he built. In there, I mean, you guys have encountered pipes that, it's just amazing. And they did all this stuff by hand when they built that estate. It's amazing. But we maintain a house that was Lawson's Nest, and the water lines that ran through that property that the people found out they had later on, because they weren't all
Where you're coming from.
documented or whatever. The infrastructure was incredible. I mean, they had a lot of facility there, that, you know, racetracks and
oh, yeah.
barns and, okay. Well, I think certainly getting ahead of, just looking down this list of roads, like Bailey's Causeway, is number 2 on the list. And there's marsh on left and right of that.
And when I have the locations identified, and they'll be further identified on the construction plans, that's a small section, and I know it lists it as Bailey's Causeway. It's from Buttonwood up to the next side street, and it slips my mind at the moment, so it's a 50-foot section of
Yeah,
cast iron.
yeah.
There's a lot of that around town where 300 feet of cast iron is in the ground, and then it's AC or lined cast, and all those little sections. It's not the whole road.
Oh, so you're up.
But one of the things, Sean, maybe, and Pat, that you should talk about is on some of these ones where they're going to have to dewater, I mean, they've been fortunate. A couple of these seasons, they really didn't have a lot of rain, and they didn't have to pump a lot. But when they're dewatering, that water's got to go somewhere.
Right.
And we don't want it pumped into a wetland or into the basins or something like that with at least without some separation.
Yep.
And I don't know that I've ever seen anybody's had any kind of tanks or separation tanks or anything like that. But
I know we've built some sediment basins out of hay bales and fabric.
Right.
In some instances that we've pumped into, but
Okay.
you're right, it is, they're few and far.
I don't know if it would cost you much more, but if you were writing that into your bid, that the contractor had some sort of sediment tanks or something available.
Yeah, they do talk it briefly in the RDA about dewatering and erosion control, but you're right, it hasn't happened often. It has happened a few times. And the contractors we've worked with have constructed things to pump.
But if you throw it into your piece now and just say, if dewatering's required, it's got to go through something like that.
I will
mean,
double check. I'm sure it's in there because this specification is several hundred pages thick.
But then it won't be an extra or something on your end.
Yeah, typically, right, it is on them.
Okay.
and other contracts we've written, whether it's, if it's...
Yeah, but everybody's standing there at the site like, huh? You know, we got to fix this today because the pipe just broke.
Right.
John, do you expect it to be one contractor that's going to get the bid for all of these, or could it be?
This is two. This will be two projects.
Oh, okay.
Two separate, about just over 3 miles each.
Oh, okay.
And it'll go through the same...
It could wind up being the
bidding
same
process.
contractor, but...
Yeah, oh, good.
And we've had some good ones in the past. We'd love to see them return. But it is open.
I mean, even this company that did this got a lot of work done in a hurry.
And they had a previous year's contract too.
Yep, and they did a good job. And their staging area,
Neighbors.
their staging area by the highway barn was actually all, that was protected though, right? They had siltation.
Yes,
Yeah, we probably would have backed it a bit more away from the edge of the wetland, but
Yeah.
it was still fenced up.
Okay. I mean, they're kind of limited to what they have
They
for
redid
areas.
the one at Tilden and Beaver Dam.
Right.
After the other contractor left, he moved in.
Oh, yeah.
They weren't
reinstalled
they weren't
that
the guy on, they weren't the contractor on Ingrid Lane.
No.
That was a sewer job. They got to dig a lot deeper trenches.
Okay.
All right?
Can I make a motion?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just mostly staging area and dewatering and those things. And, you know, we can put a condition, we already have an RDA, but...
Yeah, but you want silt socks along the areas where they're near a wetland and all that, so that, I mean, it can get messy
Yeah.
and muddy and,
And every storm drain has the sack. Is that, and that's part of the bid too, right?
Yep. Yep. Oh, yeah, that's all included. Yeah, always, no matter whether they're resource area or not, those are included. Yep.
The only thing I would ask is to tie in with what Penny said, is if there is a surprise that comes up or something unexpected that we get notified before it gets taken care of.
It was a strange, even after I talked to the contractor about it, the foreman wasn't aware what was happening either. He was on another street. So there was a breakdown in communication too.
And a little bit of a heads up on when the pre-construction's going to be too, Sean. Like in
Absolutely.
advance.
Absolutely, yeah.
okay.
Make a motion for -3.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a good one.
Thanks, Sean.
I'll stick around. Just in case.
Oh,
He's on to like 8:15, so. Yeah, we're already talking
15.
8:15.
8:15.
Who make,
Yeah.
this system's gotta go. Yeah.
All right, well, we got a few things. We got to wait another 5 minutes anyways. So let's deal with some of these other pieces.
Do you want to do the orders?
Sure.
Okay, I make a motion to accept the orders of condition for the town of Scituate on Countryway Mount Commute Trail as written.
Second.
Okay,
Do we have any discussion? We're all set?
No, we didn't have a time on that, right? It was just...
So, yeah, it's all good.
Okay.
All in favor?
okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah. If you looked at the conditions, we added a lot of erosion controls and
Yeah.
things about dewatering and everything like
Yeah.
that too.
Okay.
I read those. 142, I make a motion we accept the orders for 142 Hummer Rock Road as written.
Humrock Beach Road, yes. Second.
I'm sorry, Beach Road.
All in favor?
Aye. I make a motion we accept the orders for 31 Hawthorne Street elevation as written.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, these are the dune restoration and drift fence. I make a motion we accept the orders for 2 Atlantic Drive as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I make a motion we accept the orders for 6 Atlantic Drive for dune restoration and drift fence.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I make a motion we accept 128 Central Ave. That's just a dune restoration. We didn't put in there about the fence.
She's not getting a fence.
I
Second.
know, but later. So she has to come back, they have to come back.
Yeah, because they have no plan for a fence, so right now it's just a dune.
That's fine, as written.
And all three of those are being held at DEP. They want to look at our conditions before they give the final okay to it.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Greg received them originally, and he flagged them all to take a second look at. So when I was talking to him, he goes, oh yeah, we'll wait for your conditions, so.
I'll send them over.
Interesting.
Because it's kind of a different project, and some of the ones down in Florida didn't work out well, and they're talking about having an ID, something that will ID every piece of wood that gets put in there, so when it washes away, they'll know where it came from. So that's what they were doing in Down Cape, so they may want.
Tell them the one right down the beach worked out well.
Yes,
Down the other way.
Yeah.
Still,
Yeah.
You pick one 50 miles away that didn't work.
I know.
1.5 mile away
But
worked.
it was the same engineering firm and the same design, that's why,
Right, but
yeah.
different beach,
Yeah.
different currents and
yeah,
sand.
all
and-
that stuff. Okay, so we're gonna accept that, it's written.
Seconded anyway.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
And,
Ada Quinn.
yeah, Brennan, the new build, Carol added on another order.
Yes, she did.
Yeah, about the septic, because that has to be revised.
Yep.
But other than that, I make a motion.
So are we ready to do that? Is
Yeah,
there?
because
She
the
added it on.
Yeah, it's limited where they can put it, so it might be just moving it a little bit. They can't put it behind and they can't put it, but I think it's more the type of system and the details on the plan, but there were like 9 things on the checklist, so.
Do you think they're going to come back to us to have to move anything?
If they did, I think we could do a revised plan. It was just a few feet here or there, because it's no closer to where the wetland is. So, I don't know. I mean, we could,
I mean, once we close it, we can do an amendment, but,
it wouldn't even be an amendment if it's just a couple of feet movement of the septic.
right, but you don't think it's going to generate a change in the house location or anything like that?
If it is, then, we could tell them to come back to amendment, but I think they'd rather take a chance that it's going to be a minor revision, and not, they going through different departments. They did stormwater through planning.
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
all right, as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, we got those out of the way. Got 2 more minutes.
Coastal Advisory?
I wasn't there.
I was at the last one. So actually, it was Rebecca Haney and Jason Burtner both were at that meeting,
Yeah.
and just discussing alternative possibilities, talking about seawall height. Maura was there as well. I thought it was a pretty productive discussion. I think it's still like in the early stages and it's kind of a startup trying to figure out what should go on. But it's positive. There's a lot of questions how much we should plan for in terms of sea level rise, what our options are. So I'd say there's still a lot to discuss. Do you want to add anything to that?
Sure. I mean, just actually in the conversation with George today, because it is moving slowly, and a big reason why it's moving slowly is that the town was awarded a grant in late August from the state to have a consulting firm come in and do a complete analysis of the coastline.
Oh, really?
The entire coastline, estuaries, everything, to provide us with advice and how to prioritize and different solutions. So right now they're more in an educational mode, educating themselves and then trying to identify different projects that they can help communicate out to the public in the meantime. So they'll be ready when this report comes, which is due, probably in July. So I think the timing, it's a little frustrating to them, but there's certainly a lot of opportunity to educate themselves. So they're moving along.
Right.
Good.
I think that's good they're going to be doing that, because Nancy put in and got the grant for this, and to go off in one direction when this whole study may show something else is probably a good thing, but there's a lot that they can be learning in the meantime. They looked at the sea level rise report, in the last meeting.
Yeah, but we don't know whether it's going to rise 2 feet or 8 feet.
But it's going up.
Yeah, we
It's
do.
always going up.
Yeah. Thank you, Maura.
Oh, thank you.
The beach committee bill is in here.
Right.
It's quarter of an hour.
You want to go into the,
Yeah, go find Steve, he's up in hall,
All together?
please.
The CPC,
Yeah.
the group that wanted to get CPC money for that trail between the Christian school and the high school, they contacted us to
The
see
rec
if there were any
department.
wetland issues. The rec department, we
Yeah.
went up there and it's nothing. It's kind of uphill from the back of the football field up to the school. There were no wetland issues, but they may need to pave that, so.
did they also tell you that they were, that they're going to expand those ball fields?
They didn't mention that as part of the CPC. Is that going to happen too? or-
That was part of their application, or maybe it's a joint one, but they want to have, I think, a reuse of 2 of those fields at Cushing, which would make them a little bit larger.
I think it was 10 feet all the way around. And when I told him that he'd get his ducks in a row before we get to town meeting, I told him to come see you. I thought he was gonna bring you the plans and show you
Yeah, they only talked about
everything.
the trail.
All right, well, you know what? I'll see him again.
Okay.
I'll tell him that, because Frank's right, they are going to enlarge it. And the part going towards the Cushing School, that's fine. But the side for Chittenden and towards the high school.
There's some
might-
wetlands
Yeah.
sort of behind our football field.
Yeah.
End of Aberdeen.
There could be some there, and there could also be some, the other part of the field is more towards the softball fields or the other practice fields at the high school, and there's wetlands. I think it's all far enough away, but
Okay.
I had asked him to bring the plan in to get back. All right, I'll let him know. Come back with the plan.
So let's see, on January 27th, 2016, at 6:45 PM, the Town Hall of Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws, and Section 30700, Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws, regarding the application of Diamond Development to build a single-family home and implement wetland restoration on property located at 290 Hatherley Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Good evening.
Good evening, members of the commission. Brad Holmes with Environmental Consulting and Restoration, along with you, along with me. Steve Yorkland, Diamond Development, here for the property at 290 Hathaway Road. Oh, this is, Pat, do you mind if I bring this?
Yeah, it might be better up there. Someone could be on here, maybe in this way. Thanks.
We have, I'll go over the resource areas with you at the site, and then we'll get into the proposed filing. The property that we've submitted a notice of intent on is 290 Hathaway Road. It's an undeveloped lot. There's a single-family dwelling to the west of the site at 298 Hathaway Road. There's a small pond that you're probably familiar with, and each of the other Egypt Beach area over here. This property over here is undeveloped. There's a single-family residence further down to the east. The property abuts the pond system. There's a bordering vegetated wetland here that's been delineated along this line. There is also a FEMA flood zone, land subject to coastal storm flowage, that extends onto the site, and is designated here at this FEMA elevation here that runs through the site in this location. There's obviously a buffer zone to the bordering vegetated wetland overlapping the site. And at the back side of the pond, there's a mapped perennial stream drainage. It's a ditch, but we call it a perennial stream that flows out and then connects into a culvert that goes under the roadway and connects into the other Sheets Pond system. That has a 200-foot riverfront area associated with it that overlaps the site, and that 200-foot riverfront falls into the roadway. So that you have two resource areas being bordering vegetated wetland, the riverfront area and land subject to coastal storm flow would be your resource areas, and then you have your buffer zone to the bordering vegetated wetland. What we're proposing is to construct a single-family dwelling as far close to the street as possible, minimizing the area to the extent possible. The proposed house would be located here with a small deck, stairway off the back, driveway in the front, utility connections. The house would be serviced by sewer in the Heavily Road. The project occupies a portion of the 50-foot buffer zone. Therefore, what we're proposing is a detailed mitigation proposal that can get into with you further, at your request. The site's heavily dominated with non-native invasive species.
Before you go any
Sure.
further, I was looking for the 50-foot, 90-foot buffer, and I couldn't find it on the plan. It isn't marked, only the FEMA lines are marked.
I think to get away from so many lines, there's a 200-foot riverfront area, there's the 100-foot riverfront area, and I believe you're correct, that the 50-foot buffer zone isn't shown on a line on the plan that we can draw it on. It's basically somewhere through here.
Yeah, that's what I figured, but it has to go on the plan.
Sure.
Please.
That's not a problem.
The 50-foot buffer is on the plan.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me point it out. Do you have a
Yeah,
plan?
please.
Please, something like
Frank's
that.
got it. I'm not saying, but I couldn't find it.
Yeah, 50-foot buffer. Right there, it comes up. So it goes right through here.
Well, I don't see it. This one?
See this line right here, 50-foot buffer? The arrow goes to right here. So here's the 50-foot buffer line. And you're right, a lot of lines cross each other.
Yeah,
That's where I missed it.
okay.
But it is in
Me
there,
too.
the 50-foot buffer's in there.
You want a marker?
So it's going through the house?
Yes.
Uh-oh.
You have a-
Yeah.
I'll put it on the plan so we can...
Yeah.
Where's that line, just so I don't...
You have to look at the line type.
I don't know how long I studied this and I didn't see that.
Oh, it's-
He
well,
said
there's a lot
that-
of lines.
I know, well,
It's
that's
not
what I
easy
was
to spot.
asking.
Cuts through the back corner of the garage.
Yeah,
The 50-foot shown here in the highlighted green.
okay.
Brad, take a look and see if I get this right.
Yeah, it looks the same, the red. Oh,
Yeah,
do
that's correct.
it in the green.
Yep.
That's all right.
That's correct. There's a 50-foot buffer arrow right there.
All right, that's what I missed.
I apologize, I missed that.
Yeah, we both did.
We have proposed mitigation to offset any adverse impacts associated with the 50-foot buffer zone for the wetlands bylaw of Scituate. Another aspect of the site that I mentioned before is the riverfront area. The project has been designed in compliance with the riverfront regulations, which requires you to be 5,000 square feet or 10% of the lot, whichever is greater. The proposed development area has been designed so that it's just under 5,000 square feet, and it would comply with the riverfront regs. I have a whole detailed riverfront analysis, goes through each one of the regulations pertaining to riverfront. We can get into that if you wish, but the summary is that it does comply with the riverfront regulations. The amount of buffer zone mitigation that you see here is 5,000 square feet. The shaded area is to be restored with native plantings, the invasive plantings taken out, the debris, the trash, that kind of thing removed from the site. One area of wetland impact is in this region. There's an area that's been historically used as a dumping ground. There's quite a bit of several feet of compost and debris. That area would be removed and restored as bordering vegetated wetland. So as far as the project, the proposed activities would be the construction of the single-family dwelling, the proposed mitigation to offset impacts in the buffer zone, the wetland restoration here, think before going into too much more detail, I don't know how far you guys would like to go, so I'll ask any questions you have.
Well, what jumps out at me immediately is this is not a disturbed piece of property that was clear cut or a rebuild of a house or this and that. So I have to stand by the 50 foot and say no disturb. And the other thing is, I understand that's a great mitigation plan, but in my mind, 5 years from now, it'll all be Phragmites out there again. And I just can't get away from the 50. Because that land is not a rebuild or something where we might consider it's a virgin piece.
Are there any structures or any disturbance or anything on the property now?
There's some. There's an existing shed here. If you go out to the property, you wouldn't necessarily recognize it, but this property has occupied some of this area through here. There's some lawn and landscape area in this region. There's a shed, and again, this is the area here that's been dumped on and with pathways. If you get a chance, as Penny did, to see the site, it isn't necessarily developed other than that portion, but it is, in my opinion, degraded. It contains a variety of multiflora rose, Morris honeysuckle, and other, washed up tires and timbers and stuff that come through from the storms. It is a degraded buffer zone. It's not a. It isn't necessarily cut or void, but it isn't, I wouldn't call it healthy. That's the proposal, is to restore it to a more native state. And one thing is, looking at the bylaw, the bylaw does allow for exceptions within the 50-foot buffer zone, on a case-by-case basis. So that's our position is to come in, on this case with a good proposal to allow for that exception.
Richard?
Well, I'd ask Pat first what his thinking is on it.
Well, I think not only is it the 50-foot buffer issue, it's also the riverfront area. And what Brad was saying about the disturbance within the riverfront, that only applies if you leave the inner 100 feet undisturbed. You're not supposed to, if it's an undeveloped lot, the inner 100 feet is supposed to be left as is. Then you're allowed the 5,000 or 10% in the outer riparian. This shows pretty much clear cutting on the back of the lot, which would be in the inner riparian. It's also in land subject to coastal storm flowage. It has 3 different resource areas on there. And to prove that there could be anything done in this lot, you'd have to go through the performance standards and go through each one and show why it isn't valuable for flood protection or pollution prevention or wildlife habitat. It may be invasive plants in a lot of ways, but it's hundreds of feet of being used by some types of animals, and it's, to me, it has a lot of strikes against this. Plus the house would be in the 50-foot and the riverfront, and the yard is in flood zone. I think it's a very difficult site to develop.
I wanted that answer because I wouldn't have thought of all of that, but I agree with Penny totally on this, that we've got a lot to overcome that's just pushing the envelope a long ways, and you're absolutely right. It's a case-by-case basis in many cases, but this one has a lot to overcome. I'm not impressed at the moment, other than the plantings are nice, but I don't think that does it.
Paul?
Yeah, what Richard says, it's a tough lot. You take away the resource areas and the 50-foot no-build, and there's not much left to it.
One point about the resource areas, there are 3 resource areas on site, but the project only occupies or proposes any interaction with 2 resource areas, which would be land subject to coastal storm flowage, which there are no performance standards for. And the second resource area is the riverfront. And from what Pat was saying, as far as the riverfront, there is a clause in the riverfront regulations that we comply with. So if you have a lot that predates the riverfront regulations, as this lot does, then you're supposed to try to the maximum extent possible comply with the riverfront, which we have by keeping it to 10% of 5,000 square feet. The only thing that we can't comply with is the setback from the 100-foot riverfront. However, due to that exception in the riverfront regulations that allows you to meet that exception, we do comply, and I've stated it here in my narrative, and I can read it out loud if you wish. But there is an allowance in the riverfront regulations for pre-existing lots. Now, if this was just a created lot, we wouldn't have that exception. It's because it's a grandfathered lot. They can't basically make it unbuildable on those points.
Yeah, if you found that language in there, that would be interesting to see. As far as...
How much, is it a paragraph, or is it?
Sure, I can read it, sure. It says, notwithstanding the provisions of 310 CMR 10.58 4D1, which pertains to the performance standards of the riverfront area, the issuing authority shall allow the construction of a single-family home, a septic system if no sewer is available, and a driveway on a lot recorded before August 7, 1996, where the size or shape of the lot within the riverfront area prevents the construction from meeting the requirements of 310 CMR 10.58 4D. Provided that, so there are two clauses, the lot can be developed for such purposes under the applicable provision of other municipal and state law, and the performance standards for 310 CMR 10.58 4D are met to the maximum extent feasible. In difficult siting situation, the maximum extent of yards around houses should be limited to the area necessary for construction, except where the lot contains vernal pool habitat or specified habitat sites of rare species. A wildlife habitat evaluation study shall not be required. So that's where this fits into that piece, is that it is not pre-riverfront, and we have done the best to keep it in accordance with the design to minimize any yard around the house and keep it within 5,000 square feet.
If you could overcome that, then we're still looking at the wetland buffer issue. I will check more into that.
Yeah, if you can forward that to, I'd like to actually be...
Right.
Yeah, I have it in the narrative, and I can send it separately if you'd like.
The other part about resource area is that Tom Liddy from Lucas wondered whether that was coastal land, and I don't know if that was something you had a chance to check out.
We did get to talk about it. We haven't done the study. I know from being out there, it's a relatively flat to gentle property down to the wetland. I don't believe there's any steep slopes that would be, qualify as a steep coastal bank, but we'll have to compare it against the policy, and just to make sure. I haven't had a chance to do that, and maybe with that coming up, we may need to run some profiles, survey profiles, just to verify topography that there may or may not be any coastal banks.
Anytime there's the land inside the coastal zone, there's a bank somewhere, and we didn't catch it. Tom picked up on that.
Right, it was a good catch by Tom.
Do we have a report from
yes,
Lucas?
Yeah. It was sent out by email.
I don't recall seeing it. I must have been.
Yeah, no, I got it on both of these.
How much time would you need for that?
2 weeks.
So 17th of February is next meeting.
Yeah, 2 weeks. Just to do the coastal bank portion of the study?
February 17th.
No,
3 weeks.
February 17th is the only meeting in February.
So we have a meeting in In the meantime, I could check on the riverfront provision and you were reading it. If that's the case. Now, it's the establishment of the lot. It's not anything to do with development, degraded, redeveloped, or any of that.
Right.
You're saying just establishing a lot with the town.
Right, what they did, again, Steve Bjorkman, I'm sure he was watching, in the riverfront guidelines, what they do is they protect they basically call them pre-existing non-conforming lots. If they were there before the act and laid out and buildable as such, that they provided this provision in there so that the act itself wouldn't take away 100% of the rights of somebody to use their property. But there's a lot of information on that, so we can certainly forward that to you without a problem. This lot actually is a pre-existing non-conforming lot for zoning purposes, not only from the Rivers Act, but the lot was laid out before the Zoning Act. So it's back probably before the 50s, I think it was laid out.
Steve, how come the house is only 20 feet from the street?
What happens
Not
is...
that that's our purview.
Okay, well, and what happened, when I first started to look at this, we thought that the lot had 100 feet of width with the lot because the deed called for 100 feet. But when you do the actual survey on the property, it actually works out that it's 99.71 feet of frontage on the lot. When you put the whole neighborhood together, which we've surveyed basically the neighborhood out there, and you have to leave everybody else with what they call for, and we take what's left. It sounds kind of strange, but in this situation, it's a benefit to us, because if the lot was 100 feet wide, we'd have to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals and get a variance to move the house closer to the street. Technically, we should be 30 feet back if it's a conforming lot, and one of the first things I looked at was, I want to have the least intrusion that I can in the 50-foot, because I'm well aware of the 50-foot, I mean, as everybody knows. So we immediately pulled the house up, I think 10 feet or something like that, because the sidewalk is on that side of the road, so visually from Hatherley Road, the house is going to appear as though it's 30 feet back, but technically it's really, I think it's 20 or 22 feet back. So again, it's really that kind of that back corner of the garage area, which is, it's not a huge area. The other thing that I attempted to do here with Brad, when you talk about the disruption in the 50-foot, I tried to maintain at least the 25-foot for the yard area on the corner. You can see there is a number there that goes up to 25, so I could at least do that. And again, if the woman who owned this lot had the foresight 15 years ago when we had a 25-foot buffer, there'd be not much to talk about here. It would be done. So my only take is it's really only the 50-foot buffer that would potentially make this an unbuildable lot. And I didn't want to move the house closer to the street because I don't think overall that's going to be a good thing to be that close to the street. And the reason it's got a garage on it is because we can't have a basement in the house. Because of the flood elevations and all that, we have to have basically a slab on grade out there in order to qualify for a building permit and all the FEMA regulations. So the only storage that's really going to be there is going to be the garage. So, and it would be a driveway anyway, so put the garage on there. I mean, Frankie, you can tell by the plan, it's a pretty small house. I mean, we know that we've got a very confined lot out here, and we're trying to minimize the stuff we can minimize. For one, I'm all about mitigation. If there's more mitigation that I can do, I just as soon do it. Whatever will allow the project to proceed forward is really what we'd like to do. And again, I mean, kind of my history coming in here, there are certain times that people can be out of the 50, and we see them push into the 50 and ask for the relief, either on an existing home or sometimes on new homes. Not recent, I'd say within the last few years, there was one that was approved on Border Street, which was built on Border Street. The house was allowed to be 6 feet from the edge of the wetlands. So I don't think we're really pushing the limit here by putting the back corner of the garage into that 50. I think it really, I hope that it will revolve more around what can we do to enhance the area and make it better. And if you go just to the south of that property on the right-hand side, the pond comes right up to the street. There is no 50, the 50-foot is Hatherley Road.
Right.
So you hit this one piece of property that's 99 feet wide, and you have a pristine buffer, and then you hit the guy's yard next door. So that it's not a undisturbed buffer around this pond. Everybody around the pond has intruded into that area. This one, with the plantings that we're proposing, will probably be the best mitigation that pond has ever seen. And that's what we're trying to do.
Well, that's not true, because I remember as a kid we could ice skate on that pond. You didn't have all that phragmites and stuff. But once again, it just, to be very, very honest, I don't see your mitigation lasting more 4 or 5 years than the frag comes right back in there and wipes it out. So it's almost like, and I know it needs to be maintained, but how many people do it?
I don't have a problem with a continued
No.
condition about the Phragmites on the back of the property either.
Oh, okay, well, that's something to think about, because I know the area well.
Yeah, I have no problem with that as a condition, and I'm very familiar with the Phragmites, and
it
I know
just
exactly what you're talking about.
Eats right back in.
The same thing happens to us when we build detention basins and replication areas.
Yeah.
We spend tens of thousands of dollars on all these plants because that's the right way to do it,
I understand.
and it has to be maintained.
The thing about the replanting though, if it were just a buffer area to a BBW, we've allowed some removal of invasives and planting, but when it's riverfront area and it's landslide coastal storm flowage, there's a flood protection value, but there's also a riverfront habitat that the state may rather be undisturbed rather than a removal and replanting. And when it's riverfront, they can request a wildlife study to see, maybe there's something that only can live in like briars and honeysuckle, but I know what you're saying, it would look better.
I totally agree with what he's saying, and we do have a DEP number, so DEP has looked at this. If DEP wants to come in and stop the project because of that type of mitigation, I have no problem with that. But it may proceed forward to a superseding order of conditions. DEP will certainly check in twice on that if they have to.
So you're assuming the DEP reads these when they come in before they sign the number?
On TV.
I absolutely hope that happens.
DEP is supposed to look at all the applications, but I have no problem going to DEP with this before the close of the hearing either.
Well, that might be a possibility. What about the shed? Is that you're saying that
I'll
shed?
probably try and relocate it for the neighbor. It's the neighbor's shed. So the woman who owns, it's my understanding that the woman that owns the home that's close there on the left-hand side of the plan is recently deceased.
That's my mother.
Oh, is it? Okay. Is she recently deceased?
Yes.
Okay.
She lived in that house since 1970.
Okay.
I lived there with her. So I know all about that area. I'd like to make some comments. at some
Yeah,
point
well,
if I could.
we definitely will get to the audience. Thank you.
So I would make an attempt to work with the neighbor as far as if I had to relocate a shed or provide a new shed or something like that. I know it's an old shed that's in there.
Okay.
One point about the Phragmites is that at this point, we're not proposing any Phragmites improvements. The Phragmites are actually from the wetland down. So from the wetland up is where the mitigation is. So
what's growing in that area now, Brad?
Mostly honeysuckle and multiflora rose. There is minor amounts of native like raspberry and black cherry, which would be saved, but it's mostly your stuff that's going to rip you up and make you bleed when you're trying to get through there.
Well, that protects the rabbits.
Right.
The bunnies like it.
Hello. But as far as the Phragmites, it wouldn't, in theory, it shouldn't be coming further than the wetland line, up gradient.
Okay. All right. So from the audience, you just want to state your name and address, please. If you have a comment. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm Robert Reardon, and I'm at 298 Hadley Road, and I've lived in that house since 1970. My mother bought it, and I took care of her, and she died in 95, just a few months ago.
I'm sorry.
And the problem that I have, and I've lived there so long, and I know it so well, is you have a nest of swans. And I learned over the years, the swans move around the pond every 3 or 4 years. And if you disturb that, I think it's going to throw the swans right out of whack. Because at night, with the moon coming down, I can see them back and forth. It's really a beautiful sight to see. But what I'm afraid of is that corner, if it gets disrupted, I think it's going to foul the swans up, and they'll probably leave. Because they take nests and they build them around the whole cycle of the pond. The other thing the pond has is a lot of ducks. And what you're going to do is you're going to foul the ducks up too, even though they're critters of sorts. When you disturb something, you're disturbing their habitat. And the other thing is in the summer, when I'm sleeping and I have the windows open, you want to hear some of the fights between the raccoons and fox and possums. I mean, it's hard to hear. I mean, it's really rough. I mean, they're violent. You're going to foul that little area up because now they're going to be gone. And I have an upper level and a lower level, which is part of the land. I've never touched the lower level. I've just let nature do its thing. And you did mention a few minutes ago about the briars, and they do get very nasty, you know. But I just work my upper area and just leave nature and the sycamore and everything down below as it is. And I do have the shed there, and it's right, it is an old shed, and it probably could be moved back about 2 or 3 feet. But I think that's such a small lot, and with the issues that it's involved, why can't we leave nature as is once in a while? Just leave it be. And the beauty of nature is far superior than what we do. And because it's a small pond and what it offers in nature, just kind of leave things as is, off and on, you know?
Sure.
But as I say, we've been there since 1970, and a lot of, and you have high reeds, and they would all be disturbed. And then the ducks don't, when they go around the edge of the pond, they wouldn't know where to, they wouldn't know what to do, kind of thing, you know. And so a few years back, when Mom could go out, we'd go around the other side and feed them. And even in the winter, when it froze, there was an area that was always wet and kept open. And you could feed the ducks and give them bread. And they'd all come right there. So I think what might happen is it'll take that whole nature and they'll all be gone because they won't know what to do. It's changing one's life or an animal's life all around. So it seems like I'd like to leave well enough alone, let nature stay its course. It's nice to do that once in a while, I think, isn't it? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Could respond to that? Sure.
Just quickly, I'd respond. And again, the planting plan that Brad has here, we tried to maximize what we could for enhancement for the buffer zone. And kind of listening to Pat talk about the 100-foot inner riparian zone and maybe not disturbing that so much, and listening to the neighbor, we certainly would be willing to cut back on the area next to the edge of the pond and pull back what we do for mitigation. We just try to maximize it, as I pretty much do on every project. So we'd be willing to pull that area back in, but again, I tried to provide as much as I could for the commission. It would certainly be up to the commission if they wanted to say, cut it back, and we'd be willing to do that. And that, I think, would take care of a lot of the issues, maybe.
Plus, I think you get well over the 5,000 square feet if you take in the area that you're going to enhance. I mean, that would get you up to 8,000 or 9,000 square feet, which under the river's protection, that wouldn't be allowed.
They allow for, there's another section in there that allows for restoration.
Another regulation.
Love this law.
Yep.
So so say you had to do a wetland replication or restoration, there's a section in there that doesn't, or stormwater, that doesn't account for the,
I knew about the storm.
right. It's in that section of storm that talks about that issue. I'll forward that as well.
And again, we try to be fully compliant with all those type of regulations. It really, in my opinion, it boils down to the 50-foot buffer, like Penny said. And what can I do to have that intrusion on that corner of the house in the 50-foot local bylaw? I think everything else, Brad certainly can show that we meet all of that. And I think he could talk to Pat before the next 2 weeks, and maybe they can get together and discuss it if there's any issue. But I think we're fully compliant with every other regulation in there except for just the local 50-foot, which Brad pointed out the section in there that it's really not a 50-foot no-touch zone. There are times when it can be more or less, and I think I'm hoping that this corner of the house is one of those times when it may help this lot and, again, make it so that it is buildable and not an unbuildable lot.
I said a quick thing on the surveying of the possible coastal bank. Maybe if we could talk about an agreeable person that could do it for both parties.
If I can, when you're calculating a coastal bank like that, what happens is it's really the surveyor and the engineer that goes out there.
That's what I'm saying. Somebody that we so that we don't have to check on the surveyor's work, is what I'm saying.
And he's a licensed guy, he's just gonna go out and put the rod down and find out what the
Right, we
elevations
had a
are.
licensed wetland person, we had another wetland person as well, but we can talk about that.
I mean-
If you have someone in mind, we could run it by the commission.
I'll use anybody you want, but I mean, certainly my engineer is capable of running shots and transects through there, and you've used them on every coastal bank that I've worked on in Scituate.
Yeah, I do agree. Right now, one of the most restrictive issues we're looking at is the 50-foot buffer. And say you were going to allow no intrusion into that, while arguing about the coastal bank, it becomes moot.
Yeah, although it becomes another resource area that you have to meet the performance standards, so it's something the DEP would be looking at too.
Right.
Okay. Is there anybody else that would like to speak to this? I think you've got some homework.
Not as much as me.
We'll try and help you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we want to make a motion to... So what happens, Mr. Reardon, we're going to continue this hearing so the applicant can get some more information and our agent can review it. And then we'll continue this hearing on...
February 17th.
On February 17th.
And that's, see, what night is that on?
It's a Wednesday.
Wednesday night.
A Wednesday night.
Yeah.
I drive the school bus for Severian Brothers.
Okay.
I have a late run, so I'm always running a few minutes late.
Well, why don't we...
That's vacation week, so actually that helps out.
All right, well, we can make yours a little bit later, too, to be sure that you're there. We can move this to the latter part.
But the 17th would be good, because this is...
It's not working that week.
School's on vacation
Okay.
that week, so I can
Okay.
end it anytime you want it.
So,
Okay.
Good week.
I make a motion that we continue 290 Hadley Road, new build to 6:40 on February 17th.
Second.
so 6:40 on, okay?
All in favor?
Oh, sorry.
Aye.
All in favor? Thanks.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No.
Guess you guys are up again anyways. Diamond Development 105 Hadley Road.
Thank you.
On January 27th at 7 p.m., the Town Hall Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Diamond Development to delineate the wetlands on property located at 105 Hadley Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend.
Good evening, members of the Commission, Brad Holmes again. What we've submitted is an ANRAD application to confirm the location of wetland resource areas at 105 Hadley Road. It's outlined here in yellow. It's on the western side of Hadley Road. The site contains a driveway to a single-family dwelling here and a garage. It's a very simple application. There's a bordering vegetated wetland located in this corner of the site that's shown here in pink. I've delineated that. That's been walked in the field by Tom Liddy from Lucas Environmental. There's a report in the file to confirm that in his opinion, that the delineation is accurate. The 50-foot buffer zone here and the 100-foot buffer zone is in this region. And that's what we've asked for your confirmation for.
Penny?
No, I know the property. It looks right to me.
Richard? No questions.
No questions.
Pat, you want to...
No, there were DEP data forms submitted, so there were soil samples taken. Both wetland scientists agreed on the line. They walked the whole site.
Okay. Anything we need, other things we want to ask or add for this, do you think?
And it's pretty straightforward if there were any questions from the residents.
Okay, is there anybody in the audience that wants to speak to this? Is there a driveway or other things on this that we're not seeing?
There is, as far as existing features, there's not a lot. There's a driveway that comes in along this, that brings up and around to this area. There's somewhat of a yard that's maintained, not much of a yard that's associated with the house, and the rest of this property is forested through here and comes through there. There aren't many other site features other than the house and the garage.
But there is a driveway.
You have an existing garage, is there any access to that?
Yeah,
The
No,
driveway-
in the middle here?
yeah.
Yes, there's a circular drive at the end.
I'm sorry, I missed it. Okay.
And that's not relevant to that, putting that on that
No.
piece? It's just the wetlands line?
Because we're just doing the wetlands lines, so.
Okay.
Frank, and the only thing I would add to that is, this particular site here, you can see there is intrusion for the house in the 50-foot buffer. There's an area around the house where they have some stone walls and a disturbed area that is closer to the wetlands, which doesn't really affect the ANRAD, but when we come back with the project that, as proposed, we're actually going to be removing that house and pulling stuff out of the 50-foot buffer in this particular application. And there'll be enhancements as well going on with that.
Okay. And you and our consultant reviewed the whole property, Brad?
Yes, we did. We walked out the remaining areas up and through the back. There are no other wetland resource areas on the site. And I think there may be, I believe it's all bordered by homes all the way around. Maybe there's a lot that isn't, but I'd have to say it's probably, each one of those squares is a residence developed.
Sure.
Yeah, that's Marion Road Extension.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
See if anyone's out in the audience.
I think I already asked.
Did you?
Yeah, you did.
Dave Raymond.
Okay.
Okay.
Close this.
So, there's no conditions, you could vote to issue an ORAD.
And you're,
Goals and,
okay, you've got the report from Lucas.
yeah, you guys should have it too.
Yeah.
We've been doing this paperless,
Yeah.
and they haven't given us pads yet for the,
All right, the selectmen.
yeah.
Bring your own, like I do.
So you wouldn't know how to use that anyways, would you?
No.
You're like me, Frank, yeah, I don't even know how to open
That's
mine.
why I have paper.
Okay.
But it was sent to
I have a
everyone.
motion?
I make a motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And you want to,
I make a motion to,
You could vote to issue an order of resource.
I make a motion to issue a
Order of resource area delineation.
order of resource area delineation.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
BTZ Realty
Thank
Trust,
you.
Costello. Lots 31 and 32 Fieldstone Road. This is a continuation.
Plan,
A new plan?
and there's, it's an old one, but it was one that Frank had, requested.
Yeah, we wanted the oversight of everything.
Here it is. Some of this is received already. It's the wetland replication.
Okay. Oh, this is, I already have that. What do you got, Frank?
The one you have in your hand, Penny, is the new plan that shows the overall site.
Remember Frank wanted the whole...
Yeah, no, I know, that's, I do too.
Yeah.
Frank's got the one copy of the whole.
There you go.
So their property,
So
it's kind of laid out in green.
Here's a picture of it over here.
There's a building over here.
I provided two plans. The first plan that I provided last week was the plan that I have on the board right now, which is the ortho overlay. You see the property line shown in bold for the overall property. You see approximately where the house locations will be. Again, those will be outside the 100-foot buffer. And then you see, I've highlighted in blue where the wetlands are for the crossing area as well. Had indicated today that this might not have been what you were looking for. So I also provided a copy that Frank has in front of him that's the actual plot plan for the entire property, which has all the bearing and distances.
Building there.
I have that on the presentation board too, if you'd like to see it, but I thought the graphic overlay that I have here provides a little more detail for you.
When we were out there, there's another building out there, off towards the woods, across from where the tennis courts are. There's,
Yeah, I think when we were out there, we saw somewhere over in here.
Yeah.
Some sort of building. This is the latest photo I could get offline.
Yeah, and it's old, but there is a huge structure there.
It's not on the same property, it's a different piece of property.
It's not on this property?
It's not on the BTZ property.
It's on Costello property, but BTZ is this location here, where these houses are in the wetland crossing. This is the area that BTZ owns. The building that you see is way over here. That's...
Yeah, I was out there with you.
Yes, right. There's a building over in that.
Well, that's kind of, we had asked for something showing the 26 acres with all structures on the property. That's all I'm saying. And it was very clear.
He's got it marked.
Yeah, yeah.
Greg, show us roughly where the crossing is on your...
Sure. So to familiarize you with the plan, Fieldstone Road is right here, and then it takes a hard turn and becomes Long Meadow Road. The crossing is right here at this corner where Fieldstone and Long Meadow are. The crossing is right here. This wetland line that's shown in blue, this is the wetland that Brad Holmes had flagged for us. It's the wetland line that's depicted on the crossing plan that we provided the detail on. As part of our analysis, I had provided a letter basically saying that we're looking at providing access for two homes. I've plotted their locations on this plan. You'll see them here. They're in an existing field, an existing horse paddock area. We looked at alternative access onto this site. We looked at coming in off of the end of Long Meadow Road. That was the alternative that required a zoning variance, which we applied for and were unable to obtain. We also plot on here at the bottom of the plan, you'll see that there's access off of Bittersweet Lane. There's physical frontage there, but there's a much larger wetland crossing if you were to come in off of Bittersweet Lane. That wetland crossing there was several hundred feet in length versus the location here at the end of Fieldstone. I can measure it, I thought it was about 60 feet in length. Yeah, our wetland crossing is 60 feet in length at this location right here. It would come in, it would service two proposed houses in this field area.
The wetlands on our plan, Greg, is like a very light blue line. Is that a flag line, or is that just the
That's a flag wetland line. That's the wetland line that Brad Holmes flagged for us.
That would be out.
But that's a different question.
I know, I'm just, you know.
That's a different question. Don't worry about that.
When were the lots formed for BTZ?
86. 1986, and
It was bought in '86, the subdivision for the original BTZ lots.
1986.
1986.
The original trust was done in 86, and then it was renewed again because the trust ran out. It was renewed again.
The original two lots, the two lots right here on Fieldstone Road, were originally created back in 1957. This property here, everything inside this is owned by BTZ. Will be redividing the lines, if you will, but they were originally created by a subdivision plan built in 1957. The other lots on the subdivision are the lots along Long Meadow Road, which have the houses already built on them.
One of the things after the last meeting that we said we would look into was the old order of conditions superseding so I met with them to find out if they needed to see it again, and what their answer was, they had a superseding certificate of compliance, so it took care of the old alteration that had been done in another part of the property. And then the ZBA issue, ZBA denied, and I don't believe there's any appeal or anything on that, so that's taken care of. I think the biggest question we had is related to, lot layout and house location, driveways, all that kind of stuff. We're used to seeing plans that have all down there. You're showing a crossing plan, which is something that this is a first for.
Yeah, we're showing all of the work that'll be proposed within the 100-foot buffer zone, which is the limit of your jurisdiction. Outside the 100-foot buffer zone is where the houses would be. They'll be subject to a planning board review. The driveway will be subject to a planning board review as part of that as well. We're showing everything within the 100-foot buffer
Right, the jurisdictional work, right.
Yeah, the question I have on that is it's a crossing to where? For what purpose should a filling of a wetland be allowed? I don't know the answer, I'm just wondering.
Sure, the answer is it's to provide access to two proposed homes. That's how we presented it in the NOI. If you want to include a condition in the order of conditions that would limit it to two proposed homes, we're okay with that.
And the other piece of that, I had talked with Leo, and the reason further work isn't being done at the moment is that we had questions about the rest of the site. The fact that he owned the larger parcel, and for us to take a look at are there other possible ways in there, we have this area that's flagged, and some of the other areas are either GIS or suite or school property. Are there areas outside the area where these two homes are on the general parcel that would have allowed a way in without a crossing? And I think we need to see that that's the case.
I think I can answer that very clearly. The answer is no. There are no other feasible ways to access this property. When you look at the perimeter for this property, it has frontage on Long Meadow Road in the proposed crossing location. It has frontage at the end of the cul-de-sac. We tried to come in off the end of the cul-de-sac. That was not determined feasible by the zoning board of appeals. So that access is eliminated. The only other place that this property has access on frontage that's a public way is Bittersweet Lane. We had Brad Holmes, when he went out, he flagged the wetland around the back of this horse paddock, and you'll see that it's on this ortho plan. You'll also see, in his report, it extends up to this corner. from here to Bittersweet is wetland area. We walked that, we physically saw his flags in the field at these locations. So between Bittersweet Lane and there is a wetland crossing if you were to come in off of that public way. The remainder of the land around this is either privately owned, undeveloped land, or it's the school site, and the school site is not adequate frontage. So the only frontage it has are 3 locations, 1, 2, and 3. This location here was the preferred alternative because this one here was determined inaccessible. This one here had a larger wetland crossing. This location, which is the proposed location, came in at under 2,500 square feet of alteration, which is the permittable amount per your bylaws, 2,500. We're coming in under that.
Greg, the original crossing at that location that was proposed 20 years ago, thought that it would be closer to 4,000 square feet of alteration.
Correct.
Is that based on subdivision road
I have a copy of that plan.
Yeah, but that's not.
That plan there proposed a wider road at a 20-foot wide driveway cross-section with Cape Cod berms on the side, and the grading associated with it. It was also running in a hydrant. The grading was much wider. They were bringing the elevation of that roadway up. This plan here resulted in 3,700 square feet of fill at that point in time. And this was, what year is this plan? 1990.
So if this current one were accepted, you think you could get it approved at the width that you're showing on the plans?
Correct. I have it approved. I have it designed at 16 feet, which is the width for a two-unit common driveway.
It wouldn't work for a subdivision, but you may be able to do it for a 2 unit.
No. Again, we're not doing a subdivision project. Right. We'll take that as a condition.
So, would you be back, I mean, the crossing comes first, and then obviously you'd be back with another filing to build these houses?
Our goal is to keep the houses outside the 100-foot buffer and not have to come back to you.
I mean, I just did a quick scale.
That one right there, no, that one looks like it's close to the,
So we'll
you'll move it outside the 100, right?
The goal is to keep them up in this area outside the 100-foot buffer, so that the only work coming in would be the driveway and the utilities.
Do you think this plan's to scale, Greg?
It should be.
Because this is saying 1 inch equals 80.
1 inch 80.
So if you do that,
So that,
you're not, I'm only getting like maybe 40 or 50 feet.
based on that, it's about 50.
So you might be outside the 50, but you're going to be in the 100.
Yeah, so you might have to come back in for that one, or we might be able to pull it out. We haven't done the perk tests for these 2 locations yet. Each lot is going to be about 5 acres in size, so there's a lot of wiggle room to move around. This is half-acre zoning.
Yep.
So,
but the actual upland area, I guess, was the reason for asking the questions before. What you've got for upland in these 2 lots is this section right here, right?
BTZ owns all of this.
I understand.
Oh, what's the upland?
But he's saying the upland is that circle where the houses are, yeah.
Which,
right.
Is it a couple of acres?
Probably about 3.5 acres.
Okay. So there's plenty of upland to do something with.
Correct.
Okay.
Greg, is there any potential for access to the larger site from the northwest, up in the corner? Is it Curtis land or?
This is the Curtis property. This is the end of Townsend Road, right here. So, yeah, I think the back piece in here is probably wet. on the Curtis property. I know we did a septic system for the Costello house here. I permitted that in front of this commission a couple of years ago, and we had delineated a wetland along this portion of the property. When we did a septic over here, so I'm guessing in here is probably wet. We didn't delineate the full 25 acres, just the locations that we were looking at for access points.
Yep.
What about directly north from the parcel?
I understand that.
Up here?
Yeah, and more to your left there.
Up here?
Yeah.
It's a big marsh.
Yeah, eventually it gets into marsh, significant wetlands out and around this area.
It's all the end of the Gulf.
Yeah.
Penny?
Well, I'm just not in favor of wetlands crossings. And when I look at the plan and the scale and stuff, I don't see those property lines that you have for two homes, but I don't know.
I'm not sure what you mean by you don't.
Well, when I look at, you know, the wetlands and I come in 50 feet,
Well, that's...
yeah,
They're gonna move the homes.
I understand it, definitely.
I mean, this gives me the information I asked for.
Yeah, okay. That's, you know...
Right, to look at all the other
I
access around the property.
With the mitigation, I'd want to review it again, and not to hold anything up, but I don't think we can refuse, even though, you know, they kind of did this to themselves, I don't think we're going to refuse the access, and if that's the best access with the mitigation, I think they've done what we've asked them to do.
Well,
I kind of agree with Richard. You know, now that you asked for this big picture, you kind of see the limited access they have.
Right.
Pat, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, we won't be voting on up or down. We may want to close if there's any additional information that you think we need before we close. Now's the time to bring it up. I mean, the old plan, it's a different NAVD, there's no contours on there, it's an older plan, but that gives you what you...
I think so. I mean, they're not done with this. They're going to be back.
Right.
Both these lots are in the wetlands, so we're going to be reviewing them,
Right.
have wetlands on them, rather.
Right.
So they're going to be back to get building permits, as far as I can see.
Yeah, the only information I would want to look into, I mean, as Penny was saying, we discourage wetland filling and crossing, but people, if there's absolutely no other way and they've done everything they need to do and they can replicate, it is something that is allowed under the law. I just would like to find out a little more information about crossing with no house plans. I mean, it's probably okay, I just would want to run up by DEP about, you know, we're just doing a driveway, we're permitting a driveway to a wetland. And if there isn't a purpose of a house that's shown on a plan, is that something that...
But I think Greg already said you could condition they have to build a house.
Right.
And they could never get an order of conditions, you know, certificate of
It's
compliance.
going to be no more than 2 homes.
And no more than 2
Yeah,
homes, right?
right.
You could put that as a condition.
Right, you can condition that.
So they have to get a building.
And he's right, if they manage to, you know, this one might be a little harder, but this is a photograph too, not a scale map. Obviously, if they can, they're going to move them out of the 100-foot and not visit us again.
You're going to see them again. They might be out of the 50, but...
Greg, as a question, have you had any of these driveway permits before without any structure, single-family dwelling or anything? Just
They do get approved like that, yes. Yeah. And you're allowed to file it with that. That's why DEP has a specific category in their filing fees for driveway crossing projects, separate from single-family home projects.
Yeah.
They do.
It's all wet over
Right,
there.
I've seen those, I've seen the house layout, septic layout, all that other stuff, but
Yeah.
this is septic in this area too, right?
Correct, it is.
Greg, can you show us, maybe not us, but me, where the mitigation would be?
We're all going to look, Richard.
I know you're all going to look, but you may already see it.
So, on our overall...
I was looking for it on the photo. That really helps me.
Yeah, on the photo here, this is where the crossing is coming in.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
The replication area, I'm going to show it to you in the photo, but the replication is right in this area right here. Right in there. And it's detailed out on the
Right.
site plan that we submitted with
Right.
the specific plantings.
Okay,
Brad
thank you.
Holmes had prepared that.
So,
Yeah, there would need to be a stormwater permit at some point.
Yep.
Correct. It's okay to do it,
Planning board will be doing a site plan review of
because
that.
it's 2 lots.
Correct.
okay. In the audience? Sure, and just state your name and your address.
2 Long Meadow Road.
Sure.
Just exactly, can you show me where the driveway is going to be?
Sure. Driveway, approximately.
This was great with a picture versus a drawing.
Right. Okay. Steve?
Yeah, just quickly, you said the planning board is going to review the stormwater in this, but I think the way the bylaw is written right now, it might be conservation does the stormwater permit until the bylaw changes.
Yeah, with the 2 lots,
With the,
that's the case.
with a common
I think it
driveway.
comes to you guys,
We'll both get a bite.
unless it's done after April. It's done after April.
The ones that have had common driveways recently, about 3 lots, you've taken the lead, we've attended the meeting and given comments, but we'll look into it. It will get reviewed.
But if it's in front of conservation, we're supposed to, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But they've been back and forth over how they might streamline. I mean,
Yeah.
it has gotten difficult for people making that application. It's been one of the discussions.
Right, who do we
of
see?
Simplifying that a little bit so people aren't confused or having to do double.
I can't. No.
Well, you go ahead.
Anybody else with any other questions, Mr. Zona? Anybody else want to add anything? So are you okay with us? Is there more information you're going to want so that they don't want to close this, or are we?
I can contact DEP, I don't know if you want to keep it open for that, or...
Didn't you already contact them?
Yeah, that was above the past and proceeding order conditions and certificate of compliance, but, I mean, we closed, it's just one question that, I get on that.
Okay, and we can do that before, so that by the next meeting, we can have orders for that. Okay. Take a motion.
I'll make a motion to close.
Second?
I second.
I followed you up,
Guys,
didn't it, Carol?
Don't trip over yourselves. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the information. What a place.
Yes, it is.
Farrell, 12 Postscript Lane, on January 27, 2016, at 7:15 PM, the Town Hall, Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700, Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Mary Farrell to repair a septic system on property located at 12 Postscript Lane, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend.
This is at 12 Postscript Lane in Hummerock. This is a septic system repair project for an existing home. The property is at 12 Postscript Lane. Postscript Lane is at the bottom of the plan here. The property line is shown in bold. The existing house location, it's a 3-bedroom house shown here. The only resource that we're in with this project is the land subject to coastal storm flowage. It's a zone AO at elevation 10. Sorry, AE at elevation 10. We've depicted elevation 10 contour here. So the entire site, except for immediately in front of the house, is within floodplain area. The house is serviced right now by a cesspool at this location. It failed a Title V inspection. We're replacing it with a new septic tank, a distribution box, and a leaching chamber bed. There's essentially no change in grade here, so we wouldn't be concerned with offsetting any floodwaters. The finished grades are all within 6 inches of what the existing grades are of the site. It's a gravity-fed septic system. It's more than 200 feet away from the river. It's more than 100 feet from any vegetated wetland resource. The Board of Health is still reviewing this plan. I expect their approval, but if you could condition it upon their acceptance of the plan, would be appreciated.
Yeah, it's
Penny?
No, I don't have any issues with it at all.
Richard? No questions. Paul?
No, I know the property, I mean, that's their option. There's no option. That's it, yeah.
Okay. Pat?
No, just if there's any vegetation they can save, be dressed up, that would be great. Other than that.
They'll be in our road.
Okay. Anybody in the audience for this? You can draw a crowd, Greg.
No.
Nobody comes for anything in Hot Rock.
I don't think that's true.
I make a motion to close.
Second.
All in favor? What do you think, Sean?
I don't know, all the people wanting to fill wetlands are mainlanders, aren't they? Isn't it the mainlanders filling and mowing the wetlands and, yeah.
Thank you.
You can't fill enough in
We
Humrock.
will get the Board of Health thing, right? And we get it approved.
Yeah, as soon as they let me know, I'll
Thank you.
Carol know. Sure.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a good night, Greg.
What do we want to roll on to?
We can't start the other one until 8:15.
What's that?
What is the-
DPW, Lawson Road, Resendez.
Where is it?
Disturbance and replication. But we told him he wouldn't be on before 8:15.
I didn't even see it on the
On the
agenda.
enforcement?
Yeah, it's listed as staging area, Lawson Road.
Well, that's only 15 minutes. We got a few
Yeah.
things to
Yeah.
cover. You want to do the enforcements, or do you want to deal with correspondence and whatnot?
Would it be like?
Let's do both by 8:15.
Okay.
What's the
There we go.
land swap?
Okay, so if we go up to correspondence on the Devotion land swap,
Yeah.
we're going to continue to discuss that. Pat and I had a discussion today with the town administrator. I think Pat has a really good idea in that we should hold some sort of meeting,
with them.
notify abutters that would be affected all the way around, including like the Damon family that sold the property. They're on Clap Road.
Would you do the other side off of...
People in that Conservation Road neighborhood,
Way,
better notify them too.
I think if we not let people know that this is up for consideration.
Yes.
I mean, this isn't some simple process.
No.
We have to go back to I believe we have to go to the selectmen, and then maybe town meeting, and then legislature. But unfortunately, I don't have a plan here tonight, but if you have a piece that shows this swap, I think it adds a considerable amount of open space and onto the Damon parcel.
Have you spoken to him about giving us a path?
Well, that'll be part of the discussion.
Okay, so you haven't
A little
mentioned it to
bit.
him?
We've talked a little bit about
Okay.
that, so that'll be more of the discussion.
That's okay, but I just wanted...
I think if everybody still wants to go forward. I know
Yeah, it's
there
a
was...
beneficial trade.
There was some confusion about whether we were interested or we weren't. I had contacted Mr. Devotion, told him I'd let him know once we met. So I think Pat and I can talk to him some more about the swap and what would work, and then at the same time get out there. I mean, I think it's important to let people know what we're doing.
Yeah.
And it's certainly all going to be very transparent because it's going to get voted in a bunch of areas. What we don't have yet is how we may or may not access the property. That's something that we're going to have to consider as we go into this some more. That we think one of the possibilities would be to change the access from Clap Road in terms of parking to conservation, but we really have to take a look at that.
Wow.
I mean, it's just something we'll have to
Would
study.
that be the only one you're thinking of, not having anything from Clap Road?
There'll be paths.
But there wouldn't be parking from Clap Road?
I don't know. I think we
Because
need...
that's all subject to, can you get a corridor? Now you say I want a corridor with a parking lot next to it, that's all...
The other thing, if you think about, Penny, and again, we'll have that discussion,
Yeah.
but it allows people access at different points so that they can walk through an area and then come out on the other side. If someone really were interested in having a long walk, they could, and we're doing it with a couple of people, theoretically, you could leave a car at one spot and park at another, and then spend the day literally walking through that woods.
Yeah.
And come out on the other end.
I think, though, the people up there would, if that would be our only vehicle access, if the swap goes through, that might make it very contentious coming through a neighborhood like
Well,
that.
I'm not saying that that's where, I think that's the point, Pat's
Okay,
point.
yeah.
We'll
no,
take input
See, I
from,
thought we'd have a thing from both sides.
oh, we'll take input,
Yeah,
and then we'll see what people think.
okay.
We should try to get Mr. DeVogan at the meeting. We're scheduling for March 2nd, so we have to do March 2nd?
Yes, that's
February
right.
17th.
Yeah, March 2nd.
Frank, remember when we talked with,
You were gonna have him come in March and have a meeting. Oh, that's the other one.
Yeah.
All right, I'm getting confused now.
I think so.
February 17th, sorry, because we're on a faster pace in case it has to go to
Right.
the meeting. And so we'll do a mailing to abutters on both sides next week,
Okay.
For the 17th of
for
February?
the 17th of February.
Okay.
And we should pick a time so we can put a time in the notice.
What do you got so far?
Right now, I only have 6:30 and 6:40 in an RDA, which keeps me...
Let's say 7?
7? Okay.
Yeah, you better leave.
All right, 1, 2, 3, 7 o'clock, discussion.
Okay.
And there's probably several sides to the issue that we haven't heard yet, too. I think it'd be good to...
So we'll have to have a map at that meeting of that property.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Any comments? Because Board of Selectmen, I think, are waiting to hear what we think
Okay,
about it. So-
yep, sounds good.
So, Water Resources Committee update, Pat and I attended that one last night. You want to elaborate, or?
Yeah, I think this was a chance for Water Resources and us, South River Watershed Association, to give their input on this. We've met as a group with contractors, engineers, Laura,
This is regard to the stormwater?
yeah.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. So, yeah, so they had a lot of comments last night. We're going to continue to meet. They brought up a number of points, and we kind of explained where we were. There's a lot of things in there that we can just clean up and make it a simpler thing. Some things have to be addressed in bylaw, and then a lot of things get done when the regulations get developed later. So this is just around the bylaw to get that through. And I guess the biggest issue right now is size of lot that triggers the stormwater bylaw, or alterations, amount of alteration that triggers. So,
And we're thinking about reducing it to 5,000.
Oh, you just...
50 square feet.
Yeah.
so we
Always go for more if you can.
We haven't scheduled another meeting on that, I don't think yet, but
No.
but John Clarkson's going to have his board review what we have so far and get comments back next week.
Yeah. Steve?
I attended that meeting as well. I just want to say, I know...
You were there?
Yeah, I was there. I probably opened my mouth a little bit, too. And it seemed to me at that meeting that Mr. Clarkson really wanted to spend some time discussing how they can incorporate part of what's in the Water Resource Protection District for enhanced treatment in the stormwater bylaw. And I think they're probably going to continue to talk about that one issue a little bit. I think he may write something up revolving around that, but we try to basically say that that stuff is handled through the Water Resource Protection District as well. You have to meet both regulations. So, but I think that was probably the most important thing that John was talking about.
Yeah, if people that come in to develop could go to one place and get all that information.
Oh, I love you.
And,
It's never gonna happen.
and land subject to coastal stone flowage too, and that's a whole different stormwater thing, so.
Then throw in things like tributaries and a few other things to make it.
Oh, Lord. All right.
From the government,
It is
we're here to
moving
help
forward,
them.
though. So it
Good.
is happening.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Middle school greenhouse?
Oh, so I got a call from a concerned party, and I don't know why it came to conservation, but the concern was that would the schools consider, actually it was Mr. Buca, would the schools consider a greenhouse at the middle school? He's been farming our Appleton field piece. He feels that agriculture, that sort of thing is important to the school system. He was actually hoping that the Conservation Commission might help support him in that effort to discuss that with the schools. There's been some discussion, and unfortunately Bill's not here tonight. Bill had brought to us a program of where the students would grow some of their own fruits and vegetables. We had the kids from the vocational, I always say it wrong. Vocational skills? Life skills.
Life skills.
Here earlier, and when we attended their event, they have some gardening and things like that go on there. I told him he was a little too late. If we could have added it to the order of conditions when they came to the school, but it may be something that we want to send a letter to the school department and just say, we think this is a worthwhile venture, and if you'd consider it. I mean,
Has he approached somebody at the school already?
he has, yeah, and he was sort of hopeful to drum up a little support for that activity. Along with, our thinking was, could this start to happen in some of the properties that the Conservation Commission is involved in?
Yeah.
So I think it's a good suggestion. I don't know much more than we could send a letter just saying, would you, we'd certainly support that. Maybe we can figure something out, and we could figure something. As soon as I get my town report done, right, Cal? Or Pat?
Yeah, if he could get in touch with us, who's he's talked to and what he's thinking.
Okay. So I'll let him know that we'll try to work with him on that, all right? The safety building trail update. I had sent an email to Laurie Bates, who is the town's representative at the site, with regard to some erosion issues early on when they started clearing the site. And then she came back. We also had an opportunity to just talk about the replacement of a trail that was disturbed behind the safety building. And I couldn't attend that, but Howard Matthews, who's done work on the Ellis trails, met with her. Basically, they'd like to put the trail right behind where the berm is located. And I don't see a problem with that. I think it's going to run fairly straight back there. Howard felt that they could work with that, and in time, if they wanted to deviate a little bit from that, that was possible.
Yeah.
So, that's the...
Will that be done, the trail would be done after construction?
No, actually, they're looking to do that fairly soon, which I think would make a lot of people happy, because the dog walkers come across now.
But I would think of the safety concern of, well,
they've got a fence. Yeah.
Oh, it is fenced off?
Yeah.
Okay. On the other side of the burn? Okay, that's all. I just wouldn't want anybody climbing the berm.
So they're ready to go forward with that piece.
Right.
The other thing that maybe we could add, and I don't know how many people will get this tonight, but, I've seen a lot of discussion about the safety building and people being upset with the activity. Obviously, I don't think a lot of people can visualize what happens. We have these hearings, lots of hearings on these projects, whether people can visualize what's going to happen when it actually gets gets done is very different, and the clearing of that large area has been upsetting to a lot of people. I think we should make sure that we point out that that land is not under the control of or custody of the Conservation Commission. That was something that was discussed a very long time ago. I know there's probably not that many interested people here this evening, but it was vetted a long time ago. That site was proposed to be a school or maybe a large recreational center with an ice rink and pool at one point. So that piece of property is not under the control or custody of conservation, and that's and we knew that from day one, and it was never part of that discussion. The second part is that we had multiple hearings. There was hearings outside of our purview with the safety, police and fire went out to communities to explain what was going on. Then we had joint meetings with the planning board to discuss the development. We had our own hearings. We talked about mitigation for some of the work, including habitat enhancement and plantings. So, as upsetting as it may be, I think people need to realize that there was a whole process that went on, and right now that site is stripped and it's in the process of being developed, but there'll be water absorption areas that will be reconstructed that are supposed to mimic a more wildlife environment than just a deep detention pond, and the back berm is supposed to be vegetated. Right. Yeah. That will eventually be sort of like an emerging growth habitat type planting. So it's tough when it's in that stage right now.
I think that's probably what the problem is that all of a sudden 4 acres were clear cut. But once a building's on there and all these enhancements go in, it's not going to look like...
Right, but I've talked to people like anything in the public forum who are upset, and they're going to be upset when it's done too. And, you know, like Frank said, you follow the process. Yeah, right. It's not like an individual made the decision.
No.
But when you take out trailer loads of trees and clearing, it's pretty disturbing.
Sure. Yeah. Oh.
And I think... I do think that that's something that folks need to be aware of, and then, you know, because I'm going to put in a plug for our side, with regards to conservation, if people want to see land preserved, then the best way to do it is to support CPC in the purchase of those open spaces, if possible. I think that's a good way to make sure that those pieces get protected. But I also think that a lot of work went into, when that site is complete, that it will be enhanced in several ways, which will be environmentally.
Well, I think a lot of people, you know, there's been over 2 years, probably 3 years of back and forth. I mean, planning on this. It didn't just happen this past summer. It's been talked about in, like you said, there's been our meetings, there's been planning, there's been the fire. You know, they've all had meetings, and I'm sorry if some people missed them, but it isn't something that was just decided last week to do. I mean, it's been to town meeting
But it is
twice.
surprising, I mean, the people that will call and say, why didn't you guys do something about that?
Right, but you got to remember, too, there's a lot of people who are against spending the money, and their plan is, they're still going to be against spending the money when it's done.
And town meetings, and it also was on a vote, you know.
But I think to our point, that for the commission or the planning board, is that a lot of work was done to deal with stormwater, planting, all that sort of
We did a lot, and I'm sorry if they missed it, but we didn't just say...
At least I'm not getting the calls that the selectmen are getting. That's a good thing. At least we're not getting the calls that the selectmen are getting, so that's a good thing.
Right now.
It is what it is.
Okay. Trail updates. We're going to try to work some with we have some folks that are really interested in getting going on laying out and marking trails. We're going to try to find a time to meet with them, get some trails marked out in those new areas as we get ready to develop those parking spots and whatnot.
The town administrator is going to join you.
She is. That's good.
We have Lawson Road people there.
Okay.
I want to move on to that.
Sure. Come on up. Good evening.
Rod Resendes from KR Resendes. We're doing the contract for the water 2C.
Great.
I actually have a transmittal showing the drawing, which Sean told me he has here, but we have some pictures and also a drawing.
Okay. Well, I think it was helpful, Sean was here earlier for another project. I'm sorry, your first name?
Rod.
Rod. So Sean enlightened us a little bit as to what went on that area. But maybe if you've got a couple of photos, Rod, that would be helpful.
Okay. In the green that I hatched is only a tree line, it's not...
No, not a wetlands area. Sure.
What's vernal pool? That was a vernal pool, you said?
Was.
This is the area in question.
Right.
And these are pictures of it.
Yeah.
When we actually started the project, the trees had been cleared and there was brush piled in this area.
Really?
What we did was, unfortunately, our operator went in there, made room for us to do the 2 insertion valves, which are shown, the 2 8-inch insertion valves. And he pushed the brush toward the wetland. But in our contract, all the areas which are to receive a wattle, this area wasn't shown. But there were areas along our water, the new water main that were shown. So this posse right here.
Same.
This water main goes right in front of this house, 111. It's roughly 35 feet or so off the edge of the roadway. So we had these 2 insertion valves to install. There was brush in this area which we pushed out of the way to get those in. After we were done, we used this as a pipe stockpile area.
It's not even that far in. You were on the edge of the road.
No, we were on the edge of the road.
Right. No, it was more the pushing of the material back.
Well, where we did the insertion valves, we assumed if we're doing work here, we can do a stockpile there.
Yep.
I think the issue for us is we never heard about the project at all, the insertion valve or any of that. We only heard Branch Street, so we only saw it when the pipes
were stockpiled.
Yeah, stockpiled. That's when we saw it the first time.
Prior to that, we put these 2 insertion valves.
Sure. So, I mean, at this point, this is done. Is this water line going to be abandoned, Rod?
Yes.
No need to go back.
So you won't have to be back in there.
And they went back in. And
we cleaned all the brush out.
You took it out.
We cleaned it all out.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a drain line behind here that runs to, that's actually a catch basin.
Okay. So there's still infrastructure back in here somewhere?
There is, but there's no need for us to go in the water line. We abandoned them in place.
Okay. So...
And the new one's out in the street already.
Does it still get on Bossy to get out to Branch?
Yep, that's all.
Yes. Yeah, that
that's new work.
Completed.
So what, we need this revegetated, Pat?
Yeah, I mean, I would think that would be...
I don't know if there was anything there to revegetate, but, I mean...
Yeah, I mean, it was pushed into it, so...
You can't tell from the winter.
No, but as I said, it was cleared before we even got to the project.
Sure. And I think that was fairly open.
But I mean, we can seed this, and, you know, you get, I don't know what, you want conservation mix in there, and it'll just grow wild.
Yeah, do you guys have a wetland person you work with on your projects regularly, or a company that you deal with?
Actually, no, we do get a wetland specialist when we're working within swamp areas for, you know, detention basins
flagging and
whatnot.
Yeah.
But I mean, we could go in, clear it a little bit, I mean, the underbrush, and just put conservation mix.
What do you have left to do in the spring, Rod, for this project? Are you guys...
We're actually working down on the ocean side.
So you're going to be in Scituate in the spring?
Correct.
Okay. I'd suggest that we just wait till spring, take a look at this with the snow gone, we'll see what's there.
I can hook up with Pat and
Yeah.
we can look at it and do whatever remediation.
Part of the issue is we never saw what it looked like before, so.
Well, I can remember going by there,
And
and,
the house next door we were at.
yeah,
so-
I mean, a lot of this stuff came in wild, and it's gonna go back. And
It'll go back.
the fact that there's a drain, I mean, at some point, this area was disturbed.
Right.
If there was a water line already installed there and a drain pipe.
Right.
Neither one of these areas, both of these areas were disturbed to dig those. Granted, it was probably turn of the century or something.
Yeah.
But no, your idea is great. Look in the spring and see what's coming up, and then see what's there.
There's trees in there like this,
And
on either side of where we were.
And if somebody come in with a notice of intent early on, we'd work with them easily on this. There wouldn't have been any issue at all. Say, gee, you gotta get in there, you gotta do it, but we need to know about it.
You know, if the DPW would keep us informed about some of those things, would be,
I wouldn't have even called that a wetland, so I didn't.
Really?
And
wow.
Oh, there's a big one behind that.
behind it, I agree, but if you walk.
Well, but
you wouldn't.
your buffer zones, you were definitely in the buffer zone to that wetland.
So why don't we
Look at it in the spring and then
come up with what needs to be done? If they're gonna be working in Scituate, I'm sure we can
Yeah,
figure.
they have more pipe work to do down off of Hatherley.
Thanks.
Turner Road. And then they have the pavement restoration here.
That's great, thank you.
On Lawson.
Yeah.
On Branch.
Overall, I'd have to say that you guys have done a great job going through.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'd just like to know before.
I mean, the amount of-
when we're
you
getting
know,
into
it's
something like this.
unfortunate,
It does happen.
Like I said, all the areas that received wetland protection were on the drawings and marked. And the clerk of the works for the project would basically tell us where to put our erosion control. And I think we had 400 feet in this contract. I believe we've only used about 30 of it to
Well,
date.
now you're gonna
So-
have two areas that need it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, once we get down near the marshland.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know what I was saying to Sean earlier, Rod, and it might be something to think about. You know, you guys are pretty fortunate last year and the other time that it was dry. The summer was relatively dry and you didn't have to do a lot of dewatering. But just to be careful in some of those places when you're dewatering to make sure that you've got some kind of tank or separation.
Yeah, well, usually what we try to do is if we can, like a little stilling basin, and we dewater into it, and then just have an overflow and a discharge.
Okay.
But it depends on where we are, in the proximity of the wetlands or marshland.
Sure. Okay.
I'm gonna look into that for you.
Super. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry to drag you all the way up here.
Not a
You
problem.
want to hang, we're going to keep these in the folder?
Yeah, you have your transfer. just so you know.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, man. Thank you.
One of the people from the enforcement, Mr. Trigger, is here.
Okay. Which site?
140 River.
Want to come up?
Sure.
Can you fill me in a little
Yeah,
bit?
this goes back a way. There was a Corps of Engineers involved. There was a enforcement order at one point, and then I think it was your parents were asked to go to file with the Corps of Engineers. And then since that time, we don't know what happened with the Corps. They've had a lot of turnover. We've never gotten any interest. But the wall was completed that's in the river, kind of brought forward, and sand was put in behind it. Something to bring it up to.
Crushed stone, yeah. You remember this one in Hummerock?
So, and I think what happened
Amy
was
Questle
we had
came
written letters
in.
saying
Oh, geez.
This is that one.
anything
Yeah,
in the river,
way back.
you have
Yeah.
to go through the Corps of Engineers. And, we were waiting to hear that had been taken care of.
What I do know is a few years back, my mother actually had put a wall up.
Yeah.
Without speaking with you people.
Yeah.
And then, and if she had an attorney involved, Nyland, I truthfully, honestly don't know the outcome. I could certainly, I believed, you know, he was paid, and I thought we were past that, and I thought the conservation part was satisfied at that point for us not speaking to you prior to the wall going up. I think what Patrick's talking about is last year, with the wall is probably 60 feet long, approximately. And at the end of the wall, it's probably about 6 to 10 feet from the foundation of the house, and it was open on one end. Other than that, it pretty much blocked the foundation and stuff in. So after the last winter, there's a deck off the back of the house with some sonotubes, and that after the winter there was so much erosion that the sonotube had fell, and there's 6 or 8 10 supports, but the deck was leaning, and she'd turn this support back up, put some crushed stone in there, and put a railroad tie from the end of the wall to the foundation just to keep stuff from bleeding in, is what was happening, is what probably what you're talking about. I mean, I could certainly have it removed. I don't think it would be the best thing. I could bring in some pictures. I don't have anything with me, but I could bring in pictures.
Yeah, we've been by it.
What it was,
we know that the work, and the work probably ended up helping.
Well, that sonotube definitely had fell over.
Right. I think the issue for us is that, any kind of work done there, you have to file with us, but in your case, you're in the river. So, I mean, it's actually in the tide, and that's the Corps of Engineers, and they're pretty strict. They come to us to make sure we're enforcing, and letting people know that. So I'm sure it involves an application to the Corps, and some of you guys were here before I got here, and there was a request that you follow up with the Army Corps. And we don't know.
Actually, no, there wasn't a request. We were going to have the wall removed.
Right.
And their attorney volunteered and said, we're going to file
a 91.
For 91.
Okay.
And then, so they volunteered to do that, and that's how that ended up in conditions to rectify the problem, and then they never filed.
Okay. And then since then, there's been some additional work done this past year.
So how did it ever, what was the outcome of the wall?
Well, it was supposed to be removed, but this has been going on for years, and and there was an attorney involved, and town council, and
Now, was this was your father that
My father had passed, my mother now is, she's unhealthy and not there now, so.
But the original discussions were with your father?
My father, yeah. I think.
Maybe
when was that?
6 years ago?
It was
it was a
before
long
you
time
came.
ago, Vinny was here,
Probably 7.
Yeah.
And it went on for probably 2 years while Vinny was here. So this goes way back,
When did it start roughly, do you know?
Well,
early 2000s, mid?
I've been on 9 years.
Huh?
I've been on 9 years, and I think it was like my 2nd or 3rd year. Paul, you came on right after me.
Yeah.
So it's been
a while.
A long time.
A minimal of 6 years ago, they were told to get it out.
I had several conversations with the Corps of Engineers, and one of them, they said, well, someone's assigned to it, and, we assumed something would happen, but I don't know if you received any letters from the Army Corps or...
I would have to speak to Nyland, because I truthfully, I can't answer that.
Yeah,
I thought you might.
In the last 3 years.
Right, no, that's what, it died after that, because it's obvious they didn't file for 91, and then it's...
I mean, it's actually...
If you, okay, no, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, it was bad. A lot of things were happening that year, a lot of erosion, destruction, and South Hemlock State Association emergency repairs within a certain, I mean, I didn't think that but if that needs to be removed, that section, we can certainly do it, but it's certainly going to undermine, that whole corner there. You can go down and look, I mean, more than happy to meet, so whatever needs to be done, I'm not trying to do something that shouldn't be.
No, what should normally happen if you ever have to do repairs again, what happens is if your deck's having an issue, you come in here and you get an engineer and maybe you drive 3 pilings in the river, but it's against the law to build a seawall, even if it's keeping your deck up.
Right.
You can't build a seawall in the river.
Yeah, I'm talking that short section, but you're
right. But you can't build any of that. You can't build that. So there's other ways to fix your deck. You can drive pilings, there's different kinds of piers.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the seawall is not the solution, even if you came and...
Was there an engineer involved with the design of the wall, or?
I believe that an engineer got involved.
Well, but in the beginning, it was a contractor with a bobcat and, some I-beams and the usual way.
And then he brought an engineer to...
Well, but the wall went up.
Yes.
Right, contractor put the wall up.
Right.
And then someone at the state called the office, and I think Carol called us, and Joe Urbanski and I went out and looked at it. That's when it all started.
Yeah.
The state said, we got to call that there's a seawall in the river.
Chris was, I think, I don't know if there was an engineer involved afterwards. I really don't know. I mean, whatever I need to do.
It's not a velocity zone, but the wall is in the river, and there's no permit with us, so, I mean, I think to have someone look at it before we say, gee, you have to take it out, I think it would be worth having someone that knows structural to take a look and say whether it works or it doesn't work, but...
Or a better solution.
But we kind of went through all that before.
Right, yes. And that's when we were at the point we said remove the wall. And the attorney kind of circumvented the system by saying, we're going to file for 91. And then Vinnie said, oh, well, then it's out of our hands.
Well, yeah, because the enforcement order couldn't be enforced by us, because it was, you have to file with 91 in court, So, I mean, I still think the Army Corps needs to weigh in on this, because it's in navigable waters, so...
So we just keep going, because they were going to weigh in before and they didn't.
Right. So I mean, if you use that logic too, though, the next guy who wants one should just build one because conservation has no authority.
Right, we have authority because it's a resource area, so we also have authority, but it's gone through a hearing and an enforcement, so, there's been new work done. What do we want to do about that? And after the fact, I mean, just to see if it's...
Should have been pulled,
is it something that can stay or something that should come out?
Have you've seen it, right?
Yeah.
It's something that can be removed. It's nothing that was permanently fixed. It slid into the slime. I mean, I can certainly remove it, but, maybe put, there was a stone wall there. Is what it was, some stone stacked up.
Right, but they must have moved that, because I remember when it went in, it was pretty much mud, they pushed I-beams down.
Right.
And then they put the planks between the I-beams.
I'm talking this short I'm talking this like...
On the side.
Yeah. There was a stone the whole way, but it kind of...
Right.
Time,
Hey, what we could do is, we could take a look, but at the same time, if you could contact the Corps and show us that you've made contact with them about it, because we can't ignore it if the Corps is managing the rivers and all the waterways. They're going to want to know.
Have you had any correspondence with the Army Corps on this?
Yeah, I talked with Karen Adams, who I think is just retired. I think she took retirement, but she was assigning it to somebody. That was probably a year ago.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it just keeps getting pushed nowhere.
She said, oh yeah, that's something that falls under our jurisdiction. The homeowner will have to file a permit application with the Corps. So, but I mean, I think that should be on the property owner to do that. But I mean, you guys want to look at it to see if it's something that we could say, taking it out might be worse, leaving it alone might be better, or...
I mean, I can certainly, if it's easier, remove it and...
I think you're talking about two different things here. I think when you're saying remove it, you're thinking about what you did last winter.
Right.
We're talking about the wall.
Oh.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's like a wall with crushed stone behind it now. It connects, comes around at an angle and connects.
You talking the 6 or 8 feet of the whole wall?
Well, the part I saw is where it comes around.
Yeah, when it returns.
But the whole wall is what the Corps needs to hear about.
Okay, I don't...
I can't remember, has there ever been a has there ever been a coastal person or anybody look at, have we ever heard from anybody like that other than?
No, it was all here. It was all here. It was all with us.
There were no scientists or engineers that I could see.
Well, as part of the enforcement, wouldn't it make sense to have the homeowner required to get to the Corps and make that filing?
That was the word in the
and show that it's happened. I think that, and then as far as what you did last year, what, after the fact filing?
But that wasn't get in touch with, that was file.
Yes.
File.
Yes.
Get engineering drawings, file with the state, file.
Yes.
Right, put in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember the wording if there was something about engineered plans, but I know there was filed with the Corps.
Right.
All right.
We need to see evidence that that happened.
Right.
That's what I think.
Right.
So should I have Nyland call, I mean, my mother doesn't have the resources, neither do I have the time. I mean, he would be the one that would present, give whatever he did, or whatever my mother paid him to do.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes
I don't know what
they want to find a way to get out of it, and we're trying to, let's see if we can resolve it by...
Yeah.
Because the Corps, I mean, we've had several projects in the river, you know, piers and all that stuff, and they all have to go through Chapter 91, you know. Sometimes the Harbor Master reviews the state and Corps of Engineers.
Okay.
We're just trying to enforce...
So why don't we let's pick a period of time that they have to do that.
Okay. All right, so if you on the island can contact the Corps of Engineers and file...
I'm gonna call him, and then I'll just have him give you have him give me what he's done. I mean, this is all...
Right, if he does that...
This is all foreign language to me.
If he does that, that'd be good. If he doesn't, then we're back to square one where we're filing an enforcement order, and then we're still gonna probably get the Corps involved. So if he wants to, you know, contact the Corps and contact us, that'd be the best.
So I'm sure he's done that, right? I mean,
No.
Not in this case. He might have done it for other people, but I don't think he's done
He
it.
probably has not done what he said he was going to do.
No.
And hopefully you didn't pay him to do
Yeah,
it.
it's about 12 grand we paid him.
Yeah, well, then you have to...
My mother paid him, I don't know what the hell he did, you know? I thought this was all over, to be honest.
It's not over. But if you paid him to do it and he didn't do it, then
He's had to
I'd
have
get him
done
to do it.
something, right? He's had to have done something.
We don't know.
Yeah.
That's what we're asking you to do, is to get to him and
Find out
have him show that he's either done it or going to do it.
Okay.
So we have a meeting February
17th.
February 17th is our next meeting.
3 weeks.
So it's 3 weeks from now.
Can I just get the correspondence to him, whatever I have in the meantime? If
Yep.
I have, just forward
That'd be
it
great.
Yeah. No, I get your email.
Okay.
I was just looking at it.
Okay.
All right.
So by 17th, let us know where we're at, okay? And go from there.
Yeah, so I'll talk to you next week.
Okay. Good
All right,
enough.
I'm
great.
off on Tuesday, so I'll let you know. I'll get a hold and see what the deal is.
Okay.
All right.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you for coming in.
What else?
Several of the enforcement ones are on board at the moment. They're placeholders. Concord Street and the other one, Humrock Beach Road, Dodge Road, Paul and I went out to. And Concord is a wall that was poured into a hole. And, you know, we were looking at it as to what we can do from here. And the officers pull the whole thing out with equipment, cut off the rebars and bury it, on jackhammer it and pull it out. And those were the three things we came up with. The beach grass has really been disturbed there, and the guy who did it, we have his email address, and he needs to be contacted, but the property owner is ultimately responsible. So I don't know if you have a preference on the three. It looks like bringing it in again to dig it
Well,
up.
he's already torn up the marsh, which is going to have to be restored. What you have is he didn't put forms, he dug a trench, poured concrete, and he's got rebar sticking out of it. So you can have them cut it off and you can cover it, if you want to leave the concrete. If you don't, they're going to, get a track bobcat, jackhammer it, and pull the pieces out. Those are really your options.
It shouldn't be there, right? The concrete shouldn't be there.
Shouldn't be there.
Take it out.
But they're not going to do more damage, I don't think, to take it out, because he's already got to restore that marsh. If he brings a tracked bobcat in, he can put a jackhammer on that and bust it.
But they need to tell it, we need some sort of sequencing, scheduling, give us some, we just don't want them roaming around there.
Right.
Right, so we went out there, we just said, what are our options, and as we come up, and if we want him to take it out, he'll...
But we want to know how they're going to do it.
Yeah.
And then marsh restoration when they're done.
Yeah.
I can get him an email this week.
Okay.
And we'll get that.
And the sad thing is, he's got a wall in front of his house.
Yeah.
That if he came in and said, I want to repair this wall.
He could still do that.
Right. But the wall they were putting in isn't really even going to do anything.
He knows better, that's the thing.
Right.
He knows better. I can keep an eye on him, I can see him right out my window. So.
Right.
So, and then the other one was the pavers on the street down right near you.
Right.
And it looks like there might have been an original area and it's been expanded, and we've talked to the person, and what I think they'll want to do is file an after the fact and see if they can keep part of it, all of it, or remove part of it, or remove all of it.
Is it pervious?
It was brick, it looked like there was space in between.
Yeah, there's no mortar, it's set in the sand.
It may be impervious material, but I think they need to show us.
Right.
And they have piles of other stuff there, looks like the job's only half done.
And it is one of those streets, the ocean comes right over the seawall, and it's coming right down that street, whether you have cobble, rock, or your driveway is
I don't know why they lived at Penny.
Yeah.
I don't either.
What about the wall? The fence?
Oh, and the other side, you were saying that may be new concrete?
No, there's a plastic
Oh, the
fence.
plastic fence, that wasn't there before either?
No.
Yeah. That's right, kind of in the middle of where the brick area is.
Yep.
That's new too.
Okay, have fun. No, let them, I think they need 5.
So we'll do it
Yeah.
after the fact and have them for the 17th?
Yeah.
Okay. And they've called a couple times, so what do you want me to do?
No, they've had some pressure put on it.
Yeah.
I don't know where that might have come from.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's an abutter that wants to remain anonymous too, so two of them then.
Well, tell them if they filed to do the fence too.
Yeah.
Don't let them come
Yeah,
in here.
because it's parallel to the shore too.
It is.
Okay.
Yes, it's parallel. That's right.
Hoffler,
Yeah.
Lot 2, Peggy Beach Road.
So I went out there a couple of days ago. We've had a lot of rain and then the snow melt. And I can see the pipe that leaves his property, and there was water running into it. And then I walked across the street and out to the pipe and the marsh that comes out on the end, and there was water running out of that pipe.
Yeah.
It's an old, maybe 10 or 12-inch corrugated pipe is what I'm seeing there, that I'm sure if they dug around it was partially crushed or whatever. But I don't think in my mind there's any doubt that those pipes aren't or weren't connected.
Well, if you saw water running out of it.
Well, but water can come out of that pipe from a number of places.
Right, but if you saw water going in and water coming out,
Yeah,
it's
I
most
didn't do a
likely
dye
it's...
test,
But even if it's broken, it's most likely communicating.
Well, maybe we want to dump a little dye in there, but I'm pretty convinced that this is connected. So my question is, we accepted an ANRAD that said it was isolated. So did we know that that pipe existed when we did that ANRAD?
There were questions during the hearings.
But did the pipe show up on that ANRAD plan?
Right, that's what we have.
All right. So I think
it did.
All right. So if it did not, then it's really up to the engineer to give us the correct information. The applicant, not just the applicant is required to give us the correct information. So if that information was wrong, there's lots of mistakes been made. I mean, they came to the commission, they were told that there was no wetlands there, they dump filled, and there was, but when they filed that, if their engineer did not show the correct information, then I would say that that INRAD is really...
Right. So we've continued this, so we should, just briefly say what the next step is. And actually, we talked with the two attorneys today, and because we didn't get to talk to Jim Toomey about what happens in a case when mistakes are made by the town, and they asked us to say, well, gee, let those two projects up above.
So I think those projects we have to deal with independently.
Right.
Unless if they have something that came onto his property, he's certainly well aware of what his rights are to do about that.
Right.
Or he should be. Right?
So the way we left it, and we probably should leave it, is that we're going to have a meeting sometime during February with two attorneys, a couple of commission members, an engineer, and you and I, and then we'll have a hearing on the 3rd, I think we set it up. March 3rd.
Right.
And then we extended we have to vote tonight to extend the ORAD to March 19th or whatever that date is, the 16th, I think it is.
Why?
Because we didn't have the meeting in time for tonight. It expires today. We extended it once until today.
Okay, the next meeting is February 17th.
No, yeah, nobody's available then.
So we're extending it to 60
March 2nd, I think it is.
Oh, yeah, so March 2nd. Why don't we just extend the ORAD to...
The reason we picked a later date where it might be warm enough so if the town has to dig up the street, they could lay down pavement. So we figured...
I just don't understand what that necessarily means.
I know, that's...
And I know we don't want to create more difficulties.
Right. If it's the only way to prove the pipe is connected, that would be the only reason.
Well, I like Frank's idea, put some dye in there next time it's raining.
Maybe you and I will just go out there.
With food coloring, biodegradable, organic food coloring.
Yeah, the other thing is, the property owner was saying that, he may have a totally different idea about this lot now. They did like to discuss, so.
We'll let him discuss, but he's not doing it tonight.
Right, but they asked for a continue. He's out of town, so I think. So, we're continued and we'll set up a meeting.
All right.
So do we extend the ORAD or not?
Yeah. I would say just,
So-
it's not a big deal.
No.
Yeah.
So can I have a motion to extend it to what date?
March, the second meeting in March is the...
It's the 16th. Okay, I make a motion that we extend Hoffler's ORAD Lot 2, Peggotty Beach Road to March.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good.
Okay.
I think...
We got you out of that one, Pat.
What's that?
He wasn't even, poor Pat's like, I wasn't even around to see that.
Well, that's like 140. I mean...
Well, no, the thing is, we talk about Cayman
Yeah,
lasting
you
for
inherited
years.
a lot of...
140's been the longest. It's been
We
outliving
didn't tell you about that.
Candlewood.
This guy, as soon as I called him, he goes, wow, what do you want me to do? You want me to come in? We've been looking for this guy for 6 years, but not him.
Yeah, right.
Right. Yeah, but nothing's happened either.
Right.
Right.
But he did.
Well, he was here.
All right, the only other one I have is, a couple of people called me. I'm trying to think. Rebecca Road called. They built a wall and raised they're in the velocity zone now, but it's soon to be A zone. They're on right with Constitution and, is it Constitution?
What town's it in?
Lighthouse, you're at
Lighthouse.
Constitution.
One of those. So that's where they are. They called and they're gonna have to file the same thing after the fact.
I don't go out there much either.
Yeah, I know.
A little more than I go to Humrock, but not...
And Webster is the guy I meant to get to for today, and I just, him, Curtis, tomorrow.
Well, spring's coming.
But I just...
Gotta remove that.
But I just... On that, I just want to make it clear, on that one on Curtis, right, that I do not want to hear from somebody in early spring asking for a CFC so that they can sell that house.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking that's an enforcement order that we do and start it as enforcement.
Yeah, and they gotta vegetate and,
Permanently.
Did anybody go by there in the past 2 days? Because it looked like to me that they've recut the driveway deeper into the hill. They had equipment out there Monday.
Originally, all the trees were gonna be gone on that side and the driveway was further to the left. Then they moved it to the right as far as...
Well, I think they're moving it back now. It looks like they've cut in. They had a piece of equipment out there the other day. Well, because I think they cut that other guy's pear trees. I don't know. It's kind of a mess, huh?
Keep an eye on that, Penny.
Well, I don't know at this point. They've cut so much.
Well, Pat and I had this discussion. I'm a little frustrated with a couple of these projects with people that should know better.
Yeah.
You know, it's one thing you have a homeowner that makes a mistake of doing a piece, but we've got a case, a couple of spots where they were contractors that went forward and did this, that should absolutely know better. And I really don't have a problem with a cease and desist on some of these things. You know what? Because it's time that they're gonna lose, which is their most important piece. You're gonna have a $50 fine, you're gonna have a $100 fine, a $300 fine. But to have to wait for a month to resolve the thing is going to get somebody's attention. And I'm ready, I mean, you know, we've been very reasonable with a lot of people. And I just think it's time to take a couple of people and say, you know what? Don't go back there, because...
This one, I went out there with Greg Morse, and we walked it, we measured it, he wasn't there. He had a carpenter up on the roof. And we said, Greg said, oh yeah, he's in the zone, we'll get it staked out.
But you know what, that's almost a convenience. A lot of these guys aren't there because they don't want to face the music, so it's easier to...
Yeah, if it wasn't...
Send the carpenter home.
I was gonna say, the carpenter on the roof was the owner.
No, well, the carpenter, though,
Who's that?
he'll call the
Yeah, I
guy.
know. Who's that?
I just, you know, whether it was a mistake or not, it should be dealt with fairly quickly. And I just, I think we're setting a bad example by not dealing with a couple of these fairly quickly, is personal. And I know that there's a lot of other things that you have to deal with, so, all right.
And the other, they talked about changing the town bylaw so that we're able to find more than $50 in a ticket. We can go
300.
300, so we can start at 1, go to 2, go to 3 with the same person if we...
Okay.
Yeah, but if it's, like Frank was just saying, if it's a contractor that we know should know better, a couple of cease and desists, maybe the word will get out.
Right. Yeah, that is a much bigger hit to someone, you're right.
Right, in the big scheme of most of these projects, $300 is like, yeah, I'll write you a check right now. Go on your way.
All right. A CFC for 273 Chief Justice Cushing Highway?
Yeah, this is the one right at the Rotary. It's a garage in the back.
Okay.
And he's got 2 houses to the right of him, the Ellis's property.
Right.
Wetland is beyond that.
Yep.
So, and it was built.
Okay.
They're closing tomorrow, right? Today?
Oh, yeah.
I guess actually.
Can you get that?
For a few days.
Can you write that tonight before you go home?
Done already.
Oh.
I knew you guys would like it.
And support letter CPC Cushing School Path, we talked about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll, remind
you might just want to look at the, it's not just the path, but those fields. I think they're out of it. When I looked at that on the...
Well, they're up high, I know that. They're higher
but
than
the
wetlands.
distance,
I know.
there's a slope and all that.
Like I said, it would just be the east side and the north side, I guess, of the field.
Yeah, the path from the field out to Aberdeen is a straight lawn path. Everything to the right of that starts going to the wetland. It looks like anything to the left is upland ball field.
No, it's the part that would be going towards Chittenden and stuff, and down towards the football field.
All right, I get it.
3 minutes. We can call it, we can...
I'm done.
All right. Anything else? Anything else?
No.
I don't think so.
Carol? We need a motion.
I make a motion to go home and close.
I like that. That's better than close, make a motion to go home.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
We did have